The chamber of poll. Roy?
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll start it off by thanking all of those who were able to attend the banquet last Thursday. I saw many of you there out in the audience, and hopefully you saw. I heard the biggest joke of the night was when I asked people to take a drink if they've received a parking ticket from the city of Leavenworth.
You
That
didn't
was
get a
fun.
lot of positive response from two tables, right?
I don't want to be too redundant because a lot of you were there, and not a lot has happened since Thursday. But I will recap two of the big things for us right now is, of course, working on the remodel. We will be going before DRB on the 12th to go over our remodel plans for 645 Front Street and the new Welcome Center there. So that's one thing. And then the other big news that's kind of being shared around the area was in Northwest Life today. It's going to be in the Wenatchee World, and that is our getting $90,000 from the county lodging tax fund reserves towards the Recreation Ambassador Program expansion of this summer. So that means 15 weekends instead of 10, and it means 4 paid employees instead of just having volunteers. So the employees will be able to also work as ambassadors and infill when volunteers aren't able to show up, or if we don't get any volunteers that sign up in the first place. So we'll be expanding that program, getting that up and running and ready to go, because the applications for nonprofits that want to be an ambassador will open at the end of this month, and they have until about mid-April to apply. Any questions on maybe anything from the banquet I delivered or from what I just presented right now?
No, thanks for a great banquet, a great evening. We had a lot of fun.
Good. I always said that you guys have the funnest table, so you.
Yeah.
Like our side of the room were the big winners for the night, though.
I know. I was kind of sitting in the middle. I was getting very worried there at the end. I was like, come on, other side of the room, win. And those going on the trip, I just get an update. Any of those that are going on the Bavaria trip, we will be going to Gouderfest on Sunday. So that is confirmed that we will be able to go see that festival in Zillenzeller, just over the border in Austria, on the final day of our trip. So final itinerary will be coming out soon with that. And then the other big news is that in Bad Tolz, Badtolz spelled, is the town that we will get to see a maypole raising on May 1st. So that will be a big highlight of the trip as well. Anyway, that is all I've got.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir. All right. Next up, Selby.
Yes,
Retreat.
retreat. So, Council Mayor, I sent out a doodle poll, which the majority of you did complete, to try to find a date for a spring retreat. Unfortunately, there's only one date where a quorum of council confirmed that they could attend, and a number of staff members couldn't. That was April 11th. So what I've only received one email with suggested retreat topics. So I'm going to propose a couple of options rather than us dedicating a full day to a spring retreat. We could do goal setting, which is a priority of mine for you, over the course of a couple different study sessions. Or what we could also do, another idea that I had was we typically cancel the second meeting in August. I know that we looking for a spring date, but we normally cancel that second meeting in August because we have the block party. So another proposal that I would have is that we have that meeting, but not a regular meeting, we just do an extended retreat in the evening in August. So if you guys, because that would be a typical Tuesday night, we could do it from 5 to 9. And I think that'd be plenty of time to do goal setting. And the other idea is that Zeke sent to me for retreat topics we could probably knock out during normal study sessions.
That's not too much of a burden on staff during that week.
I don't think, actually, I don't believe, because it's a Tuesday and I'm not sure that they lined up as the same weekend.
Okay.
So any thoughts about that?
I'd be okay with that.
Either one works fine for me.
either one works fine for me as well.
I'm open to both. I would just say I might lean towards the August date instead of a couple of study sessions in case we need the space on study sessions for other work, other council work.
Sounds good. Why don't I then plan on booking the 26th of August in the evening as goal setting for the council?
So Selby, that works, is that the same day as the block party? No.
No, it's not. The block party
Same
is
week as the
scheduled
block
for Thursday, August 21st.
Okay.
But typically, since I've been here, or it probably predates me, you guys have always canceled your second meeting in August.
Okay.
So my proposal would be not cancel that, not have a regular meeting, just have an
Goal
evening
setting.
retreat for you guys. Obviously open to the public because it's a public meeting, and that would take place on the Tuesday, the 26th of August.
What are the evening hours you're thinking of?
Go from 5 to 9.
No.
You like a half day retreat. Sounds like a compromise.
Sounds like a compromise? Okay. Right, great. Thanks very much, guys. Appreciate your feedback.
All right, our next. Tribal welcome this time. Oh, she's here.
Hello there.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Franco.
Uh-huh.
Nice to meet everyone. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm pretty new to the area. As of April, I will have lived here for about a year now. I've worked with Snowgrass Farm, Sage Mountain Natural Food Store, and now Stevens Path. So if my face looks a little familiar, that's probably why. Yeah, but what brings me here today is specifically an event that happened in the fall at Snowy Owl. The Wenatchee River Institute, the Confederated Tribes of the Colville Reservation, and the North Museum showed the film False Promises, The Lost Land of the Wenatchee. I'm sure many of you were there to see it, as well as the panel discussion. But yeah, I hung out until the end of that discussion, and I remember during the Q&A, an audience member standing up and asking, what can we do as a community to support the tribe? And their answer was, you can include our native language on the welcome site. I know that project hasn't been started yet, so I am, trying to get that project rolling. So, I'm working. You have, awesome. Thank you.
Do you want the clicker?
Sure.
There we go.
Yeah, so adding the Piscosa language to welcome times is what I'll be presenting on today. To start off, I'll run over just a brief history on the Piscosa or the Wenatchee tribe, just for anyone not present at the documentary and discussion or anyone unfamiliar. But to start off, the name Wenatchee was a name given by the Yakima tribe. And Piscosa is the name that's being talked on by originally. So for the sake of this presentation, I will be using the name Piscosa. Here is a map of the Colville Reservation tribes financially approved land. A zoomed in map of the region incorporates where we are currently located, Washington. In 1855, the tribe agreed on U.S. government settlement in exchange for a reserve on their traditional territory. After many years of violence, manipulation, poverty, that forced relocation to Colville tribe, where they are currently residing, which is about 140 miles from where we are. And of the 24,000 acres that were legally promised to the tribe, by the year 2000, 480 of those acres were left available, and still today, none of which have been applied to the tribe. But ultimately, the Pascosa people still exist. They're still here. They are just residing on the Colville Reservation. But in 2010, their fishing rights were recognized legally. They still forage here, they fish here, and yeah. So that's some history on the tribe specifically. So the idea here is introducing a welcome sign to go next to our current welcome sign of Blackboard. This sign would include the language spoken by the Pascosa people. The specifics of what will be featured on that sign is in the works. This is a project idea that is still a baby, still very new. I just spoke with the tribe earlier today via Zoom, and I've been added to the docket for their next council meeting. But that's all to say, I'm no expert on the language. They are, so what that sign looks like and what it says will be ultimately up to them. But rough idea at the bottom, the bullet point here, it would roughly translate to have arrived in that language. Ultimately, this would send a message of support, I believe, from our town, from our community. I think not only would it send a message of support, but it would also connect to other tribe-related projects that have already gone on in the region or are in the works. For example, there is welcome signage featured at the Wenatchee River Institute using the Pascosa language. There is also the We Are Still Here Pascosa exhibit at the Leavenworth Museum. In the works, there are updates going on to historical signs and new signs going in at the Waterfront Park. And also the Colville Reservation has purchased a plot of land on the Wenatchee River within Cashmere for the Pascosa tribe specifically. So I think that having a welcome sign on both sites or both entrances in town, like I said, would just send that message of support, and it would connect to other features that recognize the Pascosa history and current existence. So the specifics so far, ultimately the sign is pending tribe approval. That's the biggest thing, is that they sign off on this. Like I said, I am on the agenda for a future meeting to get this approval. But I've started a discussion with the local sign shop Gibbs Graphics. With the project still being relatively new, it's hard to narrow down an exact quote, but for 2 flat paint signs, each one would be $368.93, totaling $737.86. I am very new to this type of project. This is my first time undergoing something like this. So I'm learning a lot. As for funding, I'm not, that's part of the reason why I'm here today, is seeking approval from the city, as well as determining where funding comes from for a project of this sort. Yeah, it's nice to meet you guys. I will have many questions as I go along this journey in this project. So thank you for listening. I appreciate the time you've given me to chat today with you guys. Here's my email and my phone number for any questions regarding the project or follow-ups.
Any questions?
So Natalie, are you considering it, do you know how big these would be, and are they just sitting next to the welcome signs, the Bavarian welcome signs on both ends of town?
Yeah, that is the idea so far. They would sit next to both of the signs. It would not alter the current signs.
Sounds good.
Any other questions?
Are you married to that location on either end, right next to the welcome signs?
Hmm.
Okay.
Yep, the idea is very loose. Like I said, I'm new to this, I think having the signs at the entrances of both sides of town is important. But specifics I'm not married to.
Gotcha.
Did you have a size in mind?
No, not yet. The quote is for a 6-foot sign. For both.
Like 6 by 6?
6. Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you a member of the tribe?
I know, yeah.
What is your role here? To back up, you're here, as, yeah,
I'm working as an individual, and then I'm not connected to any organization, I'm not connected to the tribe. I was just somebody who showed up to the, film, and I thought, that's what stuck out to me most. A lot of things stuck out to me from that, discussion that followed, but particularly the request has continued to circle in my mind. So in January, I checked in with City Hall to see if that project was started, and if I could play a role in it or help out. But realizing it hadn't started, I kind of just wanted to make it happen.
so that, yeah, this is great. I think shows great initiative too, sparking this conversation with the city.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to establish, you've got full authority from the tribe to communicate and negotiate with us, this land, like work with the sign, and this is, will there be another representative later, or who's, yeah?
Yeah, I am not speaking on behalf of the tribe. I am just starting conversation with the tribe. So, yeah, what this presentation is, not on their behalf, but just starting, the groundwork for a project that they have requested.
But they are requested.
What I'm hearing her say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that while you're not speaking on behalf of the tribe, they're aware of your efforts.
Yeah.
And that you're keeping them apprised of the situation. They know you're talking to us. Like, this will not be a newsflash to them that you
They
are
want the
giving this
signs.
presentation. Yeah,
Okay.
great.
Yeah, I have started, I've been emailing with members of the tribe, it was actually, an hour before this meeting, it was a Zoom meeting with members of the tribe as well. So it has been introduced and it is welcomed, but officially I have not received approval from the tribe, so that is the next on the list.
So is it Leavenworth? I mean, so I think the tribal lands are bigger than Leavenworth, right? Maybe they go down to Shasta and maybe Kashmir also?
Yeah,
Okay, Wenatchee. We're down Wenatchee?
yeah.
So are you meeting with other cities in Chelan County in the Wenatchee Colville tribal lands to get signs put in all these cities, or are you just Leavenworth?
Just Leavenworth.
Why just Leavenworth?
Just because we had, so at the panelist discussion, the question asked was specifically how can the Leavenworth community support the tribe? As a member of this community that asked that question, and it was to this community that the tribe was showing this film. I've been living here for a year. I have not been living in the other cities. I'm not connected with community members of our neighboring cities. It's not something I'm opposed to, but I think one step at a time, Leavenworth is first on the docket.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think your vision should expand, I would think.
Yeah.
As you knock one down and,
That's a good idea.
you should.
Yeah,
The tribe should, right?
Yeah, this is my.
Yeah.
This is a learning lesson for me. So
Yeah.
we'll see what the process is like here, and then, that's a good idea to get it down.
And the whole land, all the lands, the
Yeah.
Wenatchee land, yeah.
You don't normally do questions from in this first, but go ahead.
Comment, I'm not sure if you're aware that first off, but the Wenatchee advisory group
Yeah, that is the meeting I was just a part of.
Right, okay, they're the ones that.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, yep. I was, yeah, just in a Zoom meeting with them and, yeah, they.
All right, well, thank you. We'll look forward to the next steps along the process and appreciate that you get us involved and engaged early in that process, so it never hurts.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the Ivy Creek Watershed Council. Who's gonna step forward first? Sharon,
I'll start, and John, we're gonna do the presentation together.
okay?
I'm Sharon Lunds, and I am the current president of the Icicle Creek Watershed Council and longtime board member, another longtime board member, Mr. Powell here. John is a board member that has particularly relevant experience in his career at PUD. One of the many past people worked for many years actually was on setting rates in water resources. That is not my area of expertise. And Ariana Jones, I think a lot of you know as well, who has a very strong background in water resource management. So we are here, first of all, hats off on the work you did last fall on setting up tiered rates for residential water. That is a huge accomplishment. And in our attending your meeting, thank you. I know you've gotten some feedback on that, but one of the meetings, it was mentioned and there was discussion about what about commercial accounts? And it was mentioned, well, let's look at that next year. I know there's issues with data gaps and some challenges with that, but it kind of got our interest when you started talking about commercial accounts. Water conservation is near and dear to our mission and who we are, and tiered water rates generally inspire conservation. So we met with Andy and explored, what are the possibilities for how we could support you in this coming year if you decide to work on tackling either tiered rates for the commercial users or other equitable adjustments that might inspire people to use less water. Because that's what is really important to us. And incidentally, people use less water. One, what we're most passionate about is it puts more water in stream for fish and for the health of the creek, but it also extends the life of the city's water rights, the existing water right, just stretches it. So we have about a 20-minute presentation, and then it'll be followed up by dialogue, feedback, questions. But our goal here is just to explore if there is a role for us to play, helping staff, helping you. We have some expertise, like I said, not mine, and in figuring out a way to motivate commercial users to use less water by pricing, and also what kind of support we need provided, what kind of engagement. So John will speak more to that. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who we are as the Watershed Council. So you might not even have heard of us. Has anybody even heard of the Watershed Council other than me? We're kind of under the radar, behind the scenes, just quietly going about doing a lot of advocacy until there's an issue. And then we send out postcards and drive people to public meetings and write lots of letters. The one steady thing we've been doing really for the last 12 years has been as a participant of the Icicle Work Group along with the city. But mostly we've been in the background. We started, were you a founding member or? Yeah, so there was 4 of us who got this crazy idea that, it can't be that hard to get the fish hatchery to open the gates at the head gates to let water into the old historic channel. And so that fish can go upstream. How hard could that be? Boy, were we naive. Yeah. Well, decades later, it was accomplished and it was not easy. But that's what got us started. And so we've worked very closely with the hatchery. And I don't know how many of you remember what that historic stretch of the icicle was like, but in the nineties, it was dewatered almost 100% of the time. And they used to raise the fish in there, and there were all these weirs that had been abandoned and trees had broken them down, and it was just a junkyard. And it was neglected, and so we decided we were gonna take that on. And so we did. But first we kind of figured out what was just to sort of encapsulates our priorities here. Well, we did really start on the Resort Channel. It's not like we did it all alone. We worked with the Wild Fish Conservancy and we worked tirelessly with the fish hatchery. And eventually, now the gates are open. The vast majority of the time, they close briefly when they need to put water in the canal to recharge their wells. But the historic channel now is a river. And it's scoured out a lot of the sediment that was deposited in the 60 years that the channel had no water in it. So that was a pretty huge deal. Then when we wanted to tackle getting the weirs out, the hatchery was all in favor of that, but they didn't have funding. They said, if we do it, we have to pay prevailing wage. It's going to cost 4 times as much if you guys do it. So they gave it their blessing and provided support. But our little Odon Watershed Council actually hired the contractors and oversaw the project of getting the equipment in the stream, pulling out the bridges, pulling out the weirs, so that that stream could flow free. And then we worked again with the hatchery to replant and establish the riparian vegetation. And then we really just became an advocacy group for quite a few years. There were lots of things floated that the hatchery wanted to do. Some of which we supported and some of which we didn't. And we tried to drive public interest and get feedback and so that's kind of our early years. And then, like I said, in the last 10 to 12 years, we've been an active member of the Icicle Work Group along with the city. And we've been really working on trying to increase stream flow in the creek. The stream, we're having droughts more and more, as you are all aware. In 2015, Icicle Creek got down to just a little over 16 CFS. That's not very much water. The city's water right is for 3 point something CFS. I'm sure somebody here knows the groundwater rights. So you might think, well, what does our little bit of water, what difference does it make? It actually makes a big difference when the river is low. Every little bit helps. So water conservation is a huge focus of ours. And with climate change, the forecasts are very clear. We are going to have more drought years, water is coming, more rainfall, less snowfall in the winter, coming off earlier. So we're going to have more challenges with low stream flow, especially in August and September in the coming years. So that's when a lot of irrigation is happening. That's the big users of city water. So that's why we're involved in Icicle work. And should have moved this in, but yeah, this is really what the Icicle Work Group is working on right now, which is why we, as a volunteer organization with no staff, are committing the volunteer time to attend these long meetings every month, because it's working on the very real challenges that are facing Icicle Creek right now. It is over allocated. There is the fish hatchery, the irrigation districts, the city, everybody has viable water rights, and the amount of water is going down. And so there's just not enough water. And great work is being done by all the stakeholders to reduce water use. So the smart meters that the city put in was such a huge step in the right direction to allow the city to start encouraging water conservation. The smart meters was step one, allowing you guys to do what you did with the residential tiered rates. And then, as I mentioned, the climate change, the picture is pretty clear what's going to happen. So this is a very long list of all the members, you don't need to read, of the icicle work group, but the only reason we put all the names on there is because it's all the stakeholders, it's the tribes, it's the state, it's the federal agencies, it's the cities who have water rights, the conservation district. Not very many environmental groups. So that's why we stick it out, is because we feel like our constituent is the health of Icicle Creek. That's really our only skin in the game. And it's just been great having the city put the time in, with ecology and Chelan County as the leaders of the Icicle Work Group. And the primary goal is put more water in stream, so we're all putting that together. And we see an opportunity with the work that you all are considering doing this year on commercial rates, of offering our help and support if you want it. Because I know there's data apps, I know there's opportunities to communicate with hotel users. Waste Loop is doing great work on getting stuff ready to help hotels communicate with their guests, on how your actions make a difference. So we thought, well, at the beginning of the process, we just would introduce ourselves and let you know who we are and what we do.
Thanks, Sharon, and thank you for the opportunity to get to the council. So a little bit more, Sharon mentioned my time at the PD was 30 years here, but I also moved to town in 1988. We had a business in town. So we were very involved with the chamber, involved with the business community, still know a lot of those people, still know a lot about the businesses. At my job at the PUD, I was involved in conservation, rate design, a lot of stakeholder engagement. I know a lot of the people in this community. I know a lot about these businesses, even though that they change hands. I still understand the businesses, whether the hotels, the retail businesses, et cetera. So I'm bringing to this effort is not only my background working with water conservation, working with customers, how to engage with customers, I've made mistakes too, don't get me wrong, but I learned from those mistakes. So what I hope to bring to this effort is just the knowledge that I have, but also the ability to work with customers, how to help find solutions, find great ideas, work with everybody, to move those forward instead of here's what we're going to do approach. It has to involve customers. So that's what you see. A lot of this is what we're just talking about right here. There's the, you can talk about water conservation, you can collaborate, we have to do all those. But just even begin the process, before I jump to this slide, it was important for us to understand how much water are we talking about? What who is that water? So we got some information from staff. They gave us enough information to at least look at water consumption by meter sizes. So and so that was an inside the commercial and outside commercial, 1-inch meter, a 2-inch meter, 3-inch meter. So we can again group all that information. What I found out by doing this, I have 2 years of data, so keep in mind it's 2022, 2023. But there's some consistencies to that data. This is important to understand the fact that the data is what we need to know. Is there an opportunity? So what I found was that of all commercial customers, I figure I find looks like about 250 commercial customers. Does sound about right? We use 40% of the total amount of water by all city meters. So 40% are commercial. Of that, 21 of the largest customers, commercial customers, use half that. So they're using almost 20% of all the water used by the city by these commercial customers. One of them is a city, and I'm still trying to understand that it's a large usage of the blanket on that. And that's a measurable percentage. But with that outlier, there's still 21 customers are using a lot of water. And most of those are likely going to be hospitality lodging, just based on the size of the meters and the number of them. The model building is not going to have a 2-inch meter to it. Or neither the street, the business of not constant, they're going to be smaller. Could be the schools, but more likely that size of meter. It's a large user like the Bavarian Lodge or the NZ Hampton and La Puente, there's gonna be another. So we have a small group of people that we really are talking about targeting, working on, not hundreds of customers, not all of us, but a small group, but to start with. As I said before, there's ways to involve these customers, and we have to involve customers in anything we do, even early in our process. So that's what these projects we're talking about. It could be encouragement, we do education. We can go after potentially grants for the city to help fund some efforts. This is all this conversation. We're just starting the thought process here. That's all this is tonight, is an introduction of the thought process. So we talked about jump ahead again. This is the problem with both them and next year. Not following this wonderful slide deck. But the point is, you see the commercial use 40% of water, lodging is a large, assuming based on the data, a large part of that. And one thing that's also important, though, we're going to be working with the lodging industry. And impact their customer experience. Obviously, they're not going to want to put in low flow shower heads if your customers come back and say, or anything else that impacts them. That we're very sensitive to that. But there are some things behind the scene that might be able to people laundry, for instance. I think and part of what Sharon was talking about with waste movement still is you use your towels, and many of you travel and you go to a hotel and they'll say, do you want to reuse your towel and put on or if you don't want your sheets changed, do something. All those things reduce water use and laundry. Not going to impact the customer, but could save money. Could save the customer, could save the hotel's money, could save water. For us. So the outreach engagement we talked about, we could be involved in the engagement nights for the city. So other events, we can work with hotel staff as an example. There's many things we can do. And it's even getting down, and this gets more complicated if you start doing rebates. That's just something for the city, or do you find a way to do that, or rate restructuring? That's a bigger issue. So those are things that could happen, but we're talking right now, trying to work with customers, what we do to get them to reduce water use on the whole, but give them information, help them, give them mindfulness. What else can we do? We don't know that, but we're seeing that process. So with that, it's really just want to take this forward to you know we're thinking about it, know that we're willing to help out, and we would hope that you're see value in these things, and then we want to continue to work with staff and all further ideas. Move forward. Anything else to add, Sharon?
No, I mean, that's awesome. I think I would just emphasize what you said is that the tiered rates should reward commercial users that reduce their water use. So that's where the tiered rates can come into play, is they can be an incentive or a reward if you take the steps to use less water. And if it's just a blanket rate, you don't have any motivation to use less water. So if your rates are tiered at the commercial level, it's going to be a lot more complicated than residential, which is why I'm sure didn't tackle it last year, but we believe it's worth looking into to see if there are ways to tier the rates to reward those hotels that are willing to, make some changes in their communication with customers. We actually had a board member interview all the hotels, and there are no hotels encouraging people to not wash their towels every day. I mean, that is just one. And that's just such low hanging fruit, and that would reduce their. And so in adjusting the rates, it would be nice for the rates to reward that. And then there's some less low hanging fruit, like changing irrigation practices. A lot of hotels don't have a lot of irrigation, and they have separate irrigation meters, many of them. But again, just changing the equipment. So there's some pretty low hanging fruit.
Have you guys looked at, and you probably know this, is it faucets, toilets, or showers? I mean, which is the worst violator? Is it if a city mandates low flush toilets, Is that really gonna say, is that the big culprit?
But I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah.
But that type of information is available, as would be information such as what is a good metric for a very efficient hotel? Would they say this many rooms, this would be water per piece per room? We don't have that, and we can find that, and then you can use that to try to figure out
Yeah,
where the water goes. But I think you're gonna find irrigation for one, sometimes a year uses quite a bit. There's 1 meter that's got a lot of irrigation loads, so I'm not sure who has all the grass. And I think it could be, I think World Mark might be one of those, and I'm thinking who has a lot of grass around. But to your point, laundry is still gonna be a big consumer. And so again, if we look and see where can we have better impacts.
Yeah.
We gotta go after those things. I think that the customer, in this case, the lodging owners were willing to do as well.
is it worth doing a case study with one of the hotels in town and saying, we're gonna choose you and we're gonna print the cards for you to put on the beds and facilitate this and measure starting now and then next season, I mean, it's a year process, but.
That's a great idea. Something like that is something that we can use as a, yeah,
Right.
sure.
So we were just kind of looking for feedback and other questions, I mean, are you interested in us having a role as you work on this and, you're here to help because I think we share a goal in this.
Sean, I was gonna ask you, did you say out of that 40% commercial users that uses half of the city water, there's 21 businesses that, or is it 21 businesses represent the 50%? So there's the 40% is the 250 customers. But 21 of those customers use half of that amount. Okay. So in essence, 21 customers are using almost 20% of the city's total use. And the city is one of those, and they might be 10% of that. Yeah.
We are the biggest user, I believe.
Yeah, we're the biggest user.
But well, parks, cemeteries, we are.
And those didn't even make it to my list. I didn't experience anything of it, unless it has a 2-inch meter and 3-inch meter.
Some of them are really good.
Yeah, they are.
But I was also looking at annual usage, the largest, so you could have a real high, little bit of use and not make it to the whole year amount. So you could have short-term peaks, but I was looking at those that were more year round.
And then really quick on the actual rate structure that we're talking about here. So if you remember on the residential side, we have the different rates based off consumption. So like 0 to 4,000 gallons. And when we were looking at the commercial side, we just have one rate for all consumption. And one of the pieces that I talked to the work group about was, the council about was, if we were to look at doing this for hotels, we would need them to be a separate customer class because right now we have all commercial charged the same. And that was where we were saying previously that we couldn't, that was the conversation that we talked about is why don't we have a tiered structure for hotels? And it's really because we would need to create a separate customer class first to pull them out. For like a retail business downtown, we don't have a good metric of what conservation will look like because all their business practices vary so much from one another. Same on the restaurant side of things.
Yeah.
But if we had a separate customer class for hotels that would be based, like consumption would almost be a factor multiplied by number of rooms. So however we looked at that, then we could pull that out and again, identify what an efficient hotel would look like. And set up a similar structure, just like we did residential.
You could probably do something like a standard adjustment. Go to the SIC code or something like that. Great, and then it's not simple to break out, separate a class of customers. Under state laws, we still have some flexibility with careful thoughts.
But fortunately, the total number is a manageable number, 250 commercial accounts.
But that includes everybody, including a single little meter, Heidelberg.
Right, so it should be pretty easy with that small data set to then get the proper codes and pull out which are lodgings. I mean, it's not easy, but it's easier than if it's looking at 10,000 records.
Yes.
It's at least a small data set.
So you guys would think about targeting the 21 users as a start, right?
I mean, that's,
That'd be a practical place to start.
yeah, where you could get a lot of bang for the.
Right. Right. Even if it's as a council, they're master. So you said PD, you're all commissioners. Doing some type of pilot projects or anything, but get started on the process with those. Could be a good first step.
Have you guys reached out to the chamber at all with this idea?
No, this is our first step on the good idea. Yeah, no, chamber would be. If nothing else, to dispel any false information, get out there.
The chamber is involved in like business sustainability with their sustainability group and recently working with them and specifically talking about water conservation as one of the pieces of sustainability practices.
Another thing as we started looking at this that struck us was this perception is important. And the city of Leavenworth's website talks about abundant water. I think you might even have a slide to that effect. You know, we are fortunate to live in a water-rich area. That's how it describes. There's just zero history by the city of trying to create awareness about let's be good stewards of the water. What we think is that we should be using the water from the icicle efficiently. We're not saying it shouldn't be used, but let's just make sure we're not wasting it. And you guys have all heard what we hear from our out-of-town visitors, I'm sure. Can't believe it. We're in Seattle and our lawns are all green. We come over here in the dry side of the mountains and we've got all these big, huge green lawns. People, it drives them crazy. We're all so used to it because we don't have a green lawn. You know, we water our lawns. We live in fire country. But there is this perception of a lack of stewardship of our water by visitors. I would say I don't have anything to back that up. That's just perception.
No, you're right. I mean, growing up, you know, here in Leavenworth, like I always thought like, oh, we'll never run out of water, you know? And, you know, up until, you know, the last few years, like my last roommate, she got me to be more encouraged about how I'm using the water and like, am I wasting it? Like, yeah, and just thinking about, you know, being a better steward of, you know, the water usage.
Yeah, and we all have a lot of work to do there because we have this kind of little casual.
I would say that to Andy's point about the Chamber of Commerce, right? I mean, that's been the campaign the past several years is to give a schnitzel, right? We've peaked and we're looking at responsible tourism, right? We maxed out. Now let's talk to them of, well, you're already coming. Let's be good stewards of our land. So I think it would fit their campaign. So I mean, let's touch base with them sooner than later. Because you're right, the water piece isn't really part of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, that's right.
Excellent.
One last thing, by the way, I'm just gonna ask you, and you put up a slide of the stakeholders, because I know there's a lot of hands in this, but to look at that slide and see all of that, it's amazing.
So that's the icicle work group.
Just the group,
which is
right.
this big, large thing of which we are one member and the city is one.
Yeah.
member. But the icicle work group is the one that helped get the grant for the smart meters, isn't it?
Yes, about half of it, even the city went after a federal grant for the.
Yeah.
And also got us a grant to explore for wells.
Yes,
This spring, we'll be doing some drilling to try to get out of the surface treatment, so.
So the city is doing so much. This just is another step, I would say. One, it's really easy to just change that sentence. on the website.
Fresh the screen, it's probably already up.
I didn't know it said that.
You just found that yesterday. So a heads up.
Well, it wasn't really all that long ago that we had unmetered water.
Yeah.
You know, when I came in 85, we had unmetered
I remember
completely.
the
And yeah, and you talk about, again, water riches, that was the perception.
I
What do
used to
we
see
need?
horse troughs with just water running constantly.
Yeah.
That's what I say down my street was a river because people would water 24 hours because it didn't
We
matter.
all, you know, are aware of that history. We've come so far and we just think this is another
Yeah.
step
We
that,
need to keep
that the city,
that moving.
the city's role is the rates. And then I love the idea of talking to the chamber, and we already are talking to the hotels. Well, our board member, Mark Holman, is also on the board at Waste Group, so the two organizations are already talking about an education campaign. Do you have a slide of what, of that?
It might be the next one.
Yeah, so this is a draft of what's being worked on, to provide to hotels, just to make it easy for them to help their guests make good decisions.
So that's what you guys would like to put in all the hotels.
I mean, obviously, it's up to the
Yeah,
manager,
right,
but
right.
Laura's been talking to the managers. I don't think she's talking to most of them.
Right.
So it's a multi-pronged effort, but the city's role is, as you're looking at commercial rates, that it does provide an opportunity, and equity, I know, is going to be really important. And I know you've had some pushback on residential rates, and I think obviously the first step is going to be getting the landowners involved about what they see would be.
For what it's worth, I didn't mind the increase in my rate.
Yeah, it was much needed, because we all understand that.
There's more to come.
That was the first step.
Yeah.
But that's just it, we raised our water rates, but I think about all the people that are, upset or angry that they're having to pay more versus looking at the other side, like, how can we, conserve our water?
Yeah.
Or, what suggestions does the city have, or, to lower my water bill now that, we've raised the rates and we're.
That would be a great little mailer. I know the
Right.
water bills don't come in an envelope, but maybe one month they would
Right.
with a little tips of how to use less water.
Yeah.
So I will say that when we implemented a tiered rate at the PD, we did a water conservation program at the same time. The whole idea, we're gonna raise your rates potentially, but here's how we can save.
Yeah.
So information went out, but I was really disappointed in the lack of usage of the programs we had to change out lawn sprinkler, change your irrigation, or change the lawn, change photos, et cetera. I think it was because it just wasn't, we went from really low to a little higher. It just wasn't enough at that point in time. Now, it's been many years since there was all that, I don't know if those programs became more popular, age, have those still. The point is, we did want to have some way to help the customers at the same time we were. So I think this is important. I appreciate your comment to give people information.
Yeah, thanks.
Andy, you said the commercial, there's only one commercial rate. What is it? So what does that mean? One commercial rate?
Yeah, so right now on the residential, like 0 to 4,000 gallons is 98 cents. 4,000 gallons to 10,000 gallons is
7?
Oh, I think it's 7.
Yeah.
7,000 is a set rate, which is roughly $2 per 1,000 gallons. For commercial, it's $1.44 per 1,000 gallons across the board.
No matter how much they use?
Yeah.
And that's where we're saying
Wow.
with the current customer classes that we have in place, we don't have an easy way to differentiate businesses and set. For residential, that's where we looked at 70% of what water customers use during winter months, so non-irrigation, is 4,000 gallons. So that was, the 70% was kind of that target we were setting, okay, if we could get 70% reduction. Which was just kind of a number that we were using as kind of it wasn't really grounded, but it was more just like a starting point for that. That's how we got 0 to 4,000 gallons to be one tier. But again, because just blanket all commercial customers don't have a clear differentiation of what like sustainable water use would be. We just have one tier. No matter how many gallons you use, you pay $1.44 per 1,000 gallons.
So it doesn't inspire conservation.
Kidding.
Is there a way for us this year to monitor varying types of commercial businesses so that we have some foundational data? And to look into different types of classification that ultimately would work well for us so that we know how businesses are using water this year, and then that can better inform a tiered structure for us in the near
Mhm.
future.
Yeah.
And then maybe also working with the council on doing some tests with various different business types.
Yeah.
To substantiate that data as well.
Yeah, we can very much do that, and kind of no matter when we look at starting that, we have all of that water data, assuming that there hasn't been a change of use, we have that data since the smart meters were installed, so, yeah, we absolutely.
I won't say it there, I do have other ideas of how to approach. Raising out, maybe that even, let's see that happen.
Yeah.
But be simple.
And the one thing that I would have to say, though, a little bit of counter sharing to what you're saying is that even though it's just one tier, they get hammered by paying for their waste,
Yeah.
depending on what their water usage is too. So there is
Good
still an
point. Yeah.
incentive
Yeah,
to cut back.
Well, they're
But-
paying, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
You're
any of these hotels, if they cut their water consumption by 10% or 5%, that could be a significant amount because it's gonna affect both.
Yeah.
I don't get, in other words, I don't get why they're not doing, at least that low hanging fruit.
But the ones with irrigation meters don't pay this.
Yeah, no, the irrigation separate, that's aside, but.
But no, good point.
Well, and I think that even with the rate increase we did this year, they haven't felt it quite yet. We're waiting for the high season, we're in the slow season.
Maybe we'll see some
Slow.
changes.
I'm guessing people are gonna start seeing those July, August bills and going, whoa, what can we do? And if we continue to raise rates as planned in the study, which is exponential over the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Other than just continuing to raise hotel rates, which eventually is not sustainable. But Andy's point is super critical. How do we differentiate the hotels from a restaurant, from a matter of taste that doesn't have any water hardly at all? But
One
yet
toilet.
they're a commercial account. And so we do have all these different types of tiers to take into account. And we definitely don't want to make it so hard that we start losing our businesses.
Exactly.
Is that's the ultimate, oh, no, we don't want to go that far.
So having the data you're gonna have is so valuable to help with analysis. So anything that we can get was appreciated without compromising honesty, sensitive.
Confidentiality, yeah.
I'll just add one more thing. I know we're at time, but to some of the points that I did, I think the foundation here is also awareness and education. So there's data, there's the financial pieces, there's all these steps that we can take. But a lot of people don't realize where our water comes from.
Right.
Literally, it's coming from the Icicle Creek. And so I think sharing that information on the city's website with the residents, with the businesses, all of that, I think will lead to a lot of changes on its own.
Really great to see where it's come from. It was great to hear you talk about what it used to be, and then you guys got involved, and fast forward 20 years later. If there was pictures from back then, it really cool this evolution of like,
Oh, yeah.
it isn't just here, like, wasn't here, like, this is, yeah. Be cool to see that.
All right, well, thank you, and I'm sure we
Yeah.
would like to continue this relationship and continue to work together.
Do we have your blessing to work with you?
No, stay away.
What are you talking about?
Do we have your blessing?
Yeah.
You can also tell me, but.
Yeah.
Blessing granted.
Blessing granted. The dawn of, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone. Well done.
And now the farmer's market, we've got recap and some potential changes.
We could talk about process.
Have to talk about the therapy plan.
You know?
It's not very sexy.
It's for the public too, though. that-
Oh, okay.
For those who,
Okay.
yeah, right.
That's great.
Well, Laura.
Hey, Kelly.
I'm Callie Osborne. I direct Cascade Community Markets, we run Leavenworth and Cashmere Farmers Markets. Happy to see with me. I'm Maggie Richter. I'm the president of the board this year. And we, as you may remember,
many of you remember, we're in here just about a year ago to talk about relocating the Leavenworth market. And I'm happy to report that that went super well and had a phenomenal year this year. We nearly doubled sales year over year. So huge success in relocating the market. We obviously partnered very closely with the city. And it can happen and is super appreciative. We also did a strategic plan extension in 2024 and identified, re-identified again that we still want to be working hard to not only provide the space for farmers to sell their goods, but also to support them in any way that we can. And so we're here today to do that. And to advocate a little bit for our farmers in some hopefully simple ways that the city can support small growers and how they attract farmers markets. So we have two requests for consideration of code changes that we would love you guys to discuss. I know that that probably has to happen at a future date. Speak on the agenda, but that is what I'm hoping will come out of this. So the first one is about city license endorsements, and I have the current statement of the code as it is up there at the top, and the key word in there is unprocessed farm products. And the problem with having unprocessed called out as the only exempt business license product at the farmers market is that so many farms are trying really hard to make ends meet. And the way that they do that is usually by enhancing their product, which is to say, turning it into jam or drying the product. Or in some cases, there's products that we all know and love from farms that have to be processed in order to be sold. Think about cheese. We love cheese. Who doesn't love it? And meat and fish, those things have to be processed in order to be brought to market safely. And we're currently excluding them, the growers, from having that license enforcement exemption. So if we could take a look at some references, I have two pulled up from the city of Seattle and the city of Issaquah. They were generously sent to me by farmers market directors in those cities who worked with their cities to get these changes implemented from very similar sort of boilerplate code in their own cities. And they went the route of specifying a lot of different, Seattle went the route of specifying more products that they would add to the exempt list rather than having a blanket statement of unprocessed products. That could be a way to amend the code is by, calling out all the products that you guys wanted to make sure were exempt. I think that there's some limitations in that. Like for example, in the city of Seattle's version of this code, they don't list some things that I think are just as important to include, like as I mentioned, dry goods and jams. Those aren't explicitly listed there, and I think that if we even just took our code and took the word unprocessed out of it, we could still honor the intent, which is to make sure that it is affordable and approachable for farmers who grow their own product, not people who are going to buy peaches and turn them into jam, but people who grew the peaches and want to turn them into jam, or who raise the cattle and want to sell them. But to make sure that those folks who do everything from the ground up are not being penalized for bringing that to market. And as you'll also note in our existing code, it says within the provisions of the farmers markets. So there is already a protection there that we uphold of reviewing those and making sure that they are Washington farms and that they are actually doing the work they say they're doing and not buying product and processing it. And I'll also add that this does not in any way affect products that are accruing sales tax. So these are all products that are already tax exempt.
You don't pay tax at the grocery store for your jams or for your cheese. And so it shouldn't affect anything down the line, for the city to make that change to make for those products available. Would not have anything to do with prepared or ready to eat foods. Those are a totally separate, category. And if a farmer was doing that, they would have to have different report to me as well. Yeah, we should talk more about that one first, and then I can tell you a little bit more about the other one. Do you have any questions on that?
When you, when you take away the unprocessed, I see some of the
Yeah.
50% farm product and then, you know, maybe lightly processed is referenced in here, but not referenced in the code examples. How do we know, I mean, besides that, the farmers market yourselves have your own standards that you apply, but how do we ensure that our residents, visitors are eating something that's safely processed?
Oh, how does safely processed?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we require that any product brought to us that is in any processed form is, they can, you know, point to and send me their kitchen certifications, their WSDA certifications, et cetera, and handler licenses. And the county has to approve their kitchens in order to send me that. Yeah, and then in addition, if they're being held cold or held hot at the farmer's market, we are also pulled to county health department to make sure that they have gone through the process of getting their own permit for their space. And that they know how to uphold health regulations for those things.
Okay, so the standard health regulations that apply to food service still apply.
Yes.
Okay.
And
they visit us, the
Yeah.
county health district.
So,
exactly, yeah.
I had wondered while I was reading through this and looking up some information on the internet. If somebody got sick from eating something that was sold there, what happens?
If someone gets sick with eating something that's sold at the farmer's market, they will hopefully report it to the health department. And if it is a product that, is anyway cooked, processed, cut even, the health department should have permitted that happen in the first place, and we'll have contact for that vendor who sold it to check on what went wrong and, if necessary, go through whatever, process of, hopefully not punishment, but fixing the situation to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So the health department is very involved in, any food in the farmer's market, except for fresh cut, single cut produce. So if you cut the tomato off the vine, that's fine, and the health department doesn't need to check on how you bring it to market. But if you cut the tomato, they need to check on how you process that. Does that make sense?
It does. Are they there for every farmer's market?
They're not there for every farmer's market. Now, they visit us once or twice a season, especially early on, and if we have any new, especially any new vendor who's bringing hot or cold process. It's like, if it needs to be kept on ice and we have someone during the middle of season, they're gonna come out and make sure that the cooler is the right temperature.
I guess I was thinking of a lawsuit. Who would they sue? You guys are the city.
I mean, they might try, but we have insurance and we make sure that the city is included in that, so. We're checking as many boxes as we can on that front.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Charlie, I just want to say thank you for providing references for the code changes. That was really helpful.
Absolutely, happy to do it. Any other questions on our first report?
Your second?
Yeah, okay, so the next one, I chatted a little bit, very topically. With city staff last year, we just didn't have the time to pursue it. But another aspect of agriculture in our valley is all of the agriculture that goes into producing delicious alcoholic beverages here. And we all know and love them. Beer, cider, wine, and mead are produced in Washington State, Washington growers. And right now, as city code is written, that is only allowed to be sold in a park, including exclusively Front Street Park, not in any other park spaces in the city. Of course, the farmer's market operates right here in Lions Club Park. And we really want to support those growers who are doing their own processing of their product into alcoholic beverages. It's a huge agricultural industry. It's very authentic to our state.
and to our county to include that in the farmer's market. And we'd really love to say yes to really cool weed producer who just applied to the farmer's market and some wineries that have applied in past years that we've had to say no to. And we totally understand the reasoning. We are not interested in any way, hopefully ever, I mean, not at any point while I'm here, in having people drink alcohol at the farmer's market. I'm okay if they're not even allowed to taste it. But I would love to see them be able to purchase it and take it home and responsibly consume that. And so my request for this is to extend the same grace that is given to Front Street Park to allow the city to, on a case-by-case basis, as it's written in your own code, choose whether or not an event can sell alcohol in Lionsville Park.
You said consume in there somewhere.
It,
Are we
well,
not
actually,
considering-
the code reads it is unlawful to bring into or consume in the park. We're not looking for consumption. Right.
I know, I thought she said consume.
She
He did.
You said consume.
Yeah, but then he doesn't want to see that.
Sell,
Mm,
sell, just sell, so bring into and
Yeah.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no consumption.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our code is very specific with regard to the exception for Front Street, just for Oktoberfest, and they're not selling it to take it home, you drink it on site. And that's just an exemption for Oktoberfest. For this particular code section, I have a little bit of heartburn with the request in that I find that this specifically conflicts with a lot of our businesses downtown and what they're already selling downtown. And I don't think that that is really what a farmer's market is all about. And I think I would have a little bit more challenge with being open to making that exception in our park for just the sale and taking home. I don't want people consuming in the park either, but since we're just talking about sales, I just find that to be in conflict with our downtown businesses.
Can I ask why it conflicts with them instead of adding and honoring what Mark was doing for?
Because it's just competition with our downtown businesses with regard to that specific type of sales versus the farmer's market in and of itself is not a competition with our businesses.
I mean, I agree that the farmer's market doesn't compete for sure. But I also think that this is that Leavenworth has proven in many places through that the rising tide lifts all boats in the realm of having more wineries, having more breweries in one place, just makes it more attractive to everyone who attends their visits. So that would be my argument there. So it actually would add to what we have going on here. It's another place to taste wine or bring home wine from the area. Also, we would, at the farmer's market, I don't know how you want to write this in. Specifically, I guess, on a case-by-case basis is how you write it. So you have to justify it for any events that you approved it other than us, but we would be very, very specific on Washington produced and Washington grown based product. Because our goal is to support Washington growers like this. It's not to support just the wine industry or the cider or beer industry in general. It's to make sure that our growers are being welcome at the farmers market. Which, as much as I love all of the wine downtown, not all of it is grown in Washington State from product. So there's an important add there.
Any other questions?
You're talking about alcohol products that are actually grown on the farm,
Yeah, yeah,
nothing, nowhere else.
right, exactly. They're not purchasing from out of state, but they're grown in Washington and processed by those growers.
Okay.
I also wanted to add on this that obviously the city would have free reign to limit how many we could have, and I would also be still beholden to having 50% of our sales be from farmers directly, and this would not be included in that percentage, unless they could prove that they were the ones
doing, like actually growing the grapes themselves by hand and then processing it, then we can have a discussion about that. But in general, I would probably have to limit it to 1 or maybe 2 per market, just to keep myself in appropriate margins to be a farmer's market.
Are you seeing that this is is Cashmere selling wine like this?
Cashmere does not currently run private land there, and so it's less of a discussion. And I still want to have that discussion with them, but they have voted no so far.
Yeah.
But many other farmers markets in the state do allow tasting even, and some have beer gardens or wine gardens within the farmers markets. We're talking about some big shots on that level, and we're not interested in getting that big, but yeah. It's definitely not.
All right. Well, we will take these under consideration and appreciate your showing up and giving us your spiel, and we will be in touch. Sure.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks. All right. Items for future discussion before we take a brief break.
I'd like to put that one we had on our desk from last week or last meeting was parklets. Yeah.
Yep, it's on.
Okay, it's on there. It's on.
In May, I believe it's coming up.
Not tonight. No room.
I'd be interested in having further conversations about the farmers market topics. Do a little bit more work on that. See where we want to go.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mhm.
Sounds good. Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a break and we'll be back for a regular meeting. Call the meeting of the Leavenworth City Council for March 11th to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Sharon, you start us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Sharon Waters.
Clint Strand.
Ann Hester.
Zeke Reister.
Shane Thayer.
Travis McMaster.
Mike Bedard.
Great, all present and accounted for. Before we have a motion for the consent agenda, I need to remove item number 8. We are not ready for that. We were hoping to be, but we're just not. So item 8 would be pulled. And I would entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to
Yeah.
actually modify the agenda and pull item 4 for just a brief discussion on some clarification.
Sure. Okay, I'll move that down to an action item.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Moved by Shane, seconded by Ann. All those in favor, let me see your hands. Passes unanimously. And now we go to our first item is comments from the public on items that are not on the agenda. I'm assuming that the majority of you have something on the agenda that you would like to address, but are there some who have items that are not? All right, can you come up to the podium, give a name, address, and let us hear from you.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name is Pete Tagan. I live at 11752 DNG Lane. I've lived in Leavenworth since 2014. And for much of that time, I've worked with various natural resource organizations that partner with the U.S. Forest Service Region 6, Okanagan Wenatchee National Forest, and other federal agencies to manage our natural resources. I have facilitated and coordinated with local partners, including North Central Washington Forest Health Collaborative, Chumstick Wildfire Stewardship Coalition, Cascade Conservation District, Chelan County Natural Resource Department, and others, to bring millions of dollars of federal funds to our region to support forest health projects, wildfire risk reduction, and increase forest and community resilience. The progress made over the past decade is now in peril because of the current administration's efforts to find efficiencies. As the most risk As the most at-risk community in the state of Washington, Leavenworth does not have time nor luxury to wait. This work must continue. The Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest and other land management agencies need to be fully equipped to continue planning and implementing forest health and fuel reduction projects. So I'm here tonight with some others to ask the city council to pass a resolution to encourage the governor, our state congressional delegation, and other local leaderships to pass a resolution to instruct those to Congress to work to have all terminated federal employees reinstated to their positions with the appropriated funds that have already been used and released by Congress. Demand that future efficiency efforts consult with federal agencies and local partners to ensure that those efficiencies do not impact negatively local communities that benefit or get hurt by those decisions. Ensure the U.S. Forest Service and land management agencies are fully staffed and prepared for the upcoming fire season, along with the ability to spend appropriated dollars for risk reduction and forest health treatments. And demand the agencies support are supported to meet their fiscal and managerial responsibilities with our natural resources. The citizens of Leavenworth, Chelan County, and Washington deserve to use and access public lands, and we support the city council and mayor in using all your power to encourage our federal delegation to put more pressure on the powers that be in Congress and DC to ensure that these funds are spent as appropriated already. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the council. My name is Suzanne Cable, and I live in Wenatchee. I retired from the Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest just over 1 year ago. I was a forest level program manager for recreation, trails, and wilderness programs. My 30-year career provided me with wide-ranging experience working for the federal government in the western states. The actions soon to be taken by the current presidential administration to reduce the local federal workforce will cause both short and long-term harm to the well-being of the residents of Leavenworth. While impacts will be widespread and touch the lives of local residents in many ways, I am deeply concerned about impacts to forest landscapes this coming summer. I am here to encourage you to take action while there is still time to influence outcomes. I believe that most reasonable people would support thoughtful, deliberate federal government reform. Unfortunately, the current approach is not that. As directed by presidential executive order, the coming personnel cuts to federal workforce will be significantly larger than what has occurred already. Many local residents will lose their jobs in this next round of federal cuts. Reduction in force plans for every federal department and agency, including the Forest Service, are due this Thursday to the federal administration. Agencies then have up to 30 days to prepare to implement those plans and plan the actual specifics of what the general plan will prescribe. The window of opportunity to potentially influence outcomes is now. I urge you to identify how these changes will impact your community and the adjacent wildlands, and boldly communicate your concerns to elected officials and government officers that have influence over the outcome of workforce reduction decisions. I know you all know what the situation will be like this summer with reduced Forest Service staffing, not only for outdoor recreation, but also to wildland fire response, forest and fuels management, and natural resource restoration projects. And I do applaud the expansion of your Trailhead Ambassador program planned for this coming summer. However, that is not enough. Unmanaged recreation in the enchantments and elsewhere will lead to severe impacts to water quality and wildlife, reduced quality of recreational experiences, threats to the health and safety of emergency responders and visitors, and damage to the reputation of Leavenworth as a premier, safe, clean, and well-managed outdoor recreation destination. I urge you to work in alliance with other city councils from outdoor recreation, economically dependent communities in Eastern Washington to speak out with a united and assertive voice to your county, state, and federal elected officials. And also Please tell the USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins and the new Chief of the Forest Service, Tom Schultz, exactly how dramatic cuts to your local Okanagan Wenatchee National Forest personnel will impact the welfare of your citizens, your economy, and the environment. The loud, united voice of local elected officials will be heard and can influence decisions about personnel cuts. Citizens have been speaking out and influencing the national discourse. We need all elected officials to do so as well. And they'll talk to you more about the likely impacts of reduced Forest Service staffing to the local area. And I would be glad to provide additional information or technical assistance as you deliberate on this issue. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Russ Kerman. I grew up in Wenatchee. I live in Wenatchee. I started working for the Forest Service in 1975 as an engine crew member. I retired from the Forest Service as a fire management officer. This topic, I fully support what Pete and Suzanne said. This topic is near and dear to my heart. I grew up in East Mountain, the area around Leavenworth and the town of Leavenworth, even though I lived in Wenatchee, made me the person that I am today. Backpacking at the age of 12 with no, or 13 with no adults, rock climbing at the age of 12 in the valley here. I had a long and good career with the Forest Service. I worked hard. During the Hatchery Rat Complex fires in 1994, I was superintendent of the hotshot crew. We burned out this hillside above town, Water Mountain, and really ticked off the overhead team because they wanted us to just go light the mid-slope road, get it done. Instead, we took the time to make sure that Leavenworth still had the scenic values of environments. Like many residents of the valley, I use the National Forest and the lands around Leavenworth and in Chelan County regularly in the spring, summer, and fall. I can remember when the Icicle River was a one-lane road going past the Snow Creek Trailhead. I can remember Leavenworth before the barbarian village. You know, we'd be out climbing and it'd start to rain or get cold or whatever. We'd come into the town, have soda and whatever, and BS and local things. So the things that Pete asked you for, please write a letter to the Chelan County Commissioners. Ask them to work their tails off to get these employees reinstated. The way that the probationary employees were just chosen as a group and plucked, it's not efficient management of the government. It's not efficient management. It's eliminating entire programs. I know you guys understand who's been terminated and the impacts that you're going to see to the environment, recreation, the economy, and the social well-being of the area. Man, that the commissioners and the legislative congressional delegation, particularly Representative Newhouse, work make sure that any future reductions in force, efforts in efficiency, take into account what the agency's mission, take into account that you can leave the agency with the ability to serve the public. It's really, I mean, everyone in the community gets fired. Everyone in the community gets permits for this or that and the other thing. Uses the campgrounds, the trails, the roads. Leave the ability to serve the public there. And then thirdly, ask the commissioners and the congressional delegation that appropriated funds be released so that the agencies can meet their fiscal and contractual obligations. NRCS does a lot of work up here. They have no ability to pay people for work that's already been done. They have contractors that have completed work that they cannot pay because of funds imposed. The fire folks with the Forest Service here have purchased cars. buy equipment that they need for the upcoming fire season. They have a spending authority of $1 right now. That's the most they can go spend. They can't purchase the supplies they need. Please write a letter to the county commissioners, congressional delegation, especially new house. Ask them to work their tails off to help the community and do what's right for the residents of North Central Washington and Lebanon. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'll answer any of them. You can contact me at any time. I've given handouts here and my contact information is on there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce.
My name is Bruce Williams. Thanks for the time. Thanks for your service. I live at 8050 East Leavenworth Road out by the Fish Hatchery. I've been a hospital commissioner at Cascade Medical for 12 years. I actually retire next week. But I'm speaking tonight in my individual capacity, not as an official spokesperson for the hospital. I'm going to mention a lot of facts, but I have them in a written handout. I'll leave copies for each of you. I'm here to talk about Medicaid, which frankly, most people don't know very much about. But if Congress goes the way they're planning to go, we're all going to learn a lot of unfortunate facts. In summary, the proposed Medicaid cuts were going to be devastating to our region, not only to those currently on Medicaid, but actually to the whole healthcare system, and including it will affect Leavenworth residents, your constituents. The context is that the House has passed a budget framework which called for $880 billion in cuts of social services spending, and it's certainly expected that's going to come out of Medicaid, which will devastate Medicaid. Another part of the context is hospitals in our state have been struggling financially ever since the pandemic. Last year, hospitals as a whole lost nearly $2 billion in total patient revenue. They don't have a lot of margin to deal with another big problem such as Medicaid cuts. Two other things is that one, hospitals are required to provide free service at their emergency rooms. And in Washington, the state has a very generous charity care financial assistance requirement for all hospitals. So I have some not so bad news and some very bad news. The not so bad news concerns Cascade Medical. It's my perception that Cascade Medical will do much better than other rural hospitals. It has a very strong financial reserve. It's had a lot of community support, and it has a relatively small Medicaid patient proportion, about 10%, which is lower than most hospitals. So it's a time where maybe one shouldn't make predictions. So these are just guesses, personal guesses. My personal guess is because of Cascade's strength, if these Medicaid cuts go through, it's not going to lay off employees, and it's not going to cut back on services for a very long time. There may be some changes. For example, over the last 12 years, Cascade has grown a lot of its services, upgraded a lot of its equipment. With Medicaid cuts, that may slow down or even stop. Cascade actually has a more generous financial assistance plan than required by the state. Perhaps that's going to have to change, which would affect low-income people here. So that's the not so bad news. The very bad news is that Leavenworth residents need a lot more than Cascade Medical for their health care. Cascade Medical is great, I think. But if you want surgery, if you want specialists, if you want emergency care beyond what Cascade can provide, you don't get it here. You need to go to Confluence or some other place. So it's good to, when you think about healthcare for Leavenworth residents, don't think about just Cascade Medical. Think about the healthcare as an entire system. And cutting Medicaid is going to damage that system. Here are some of the facts, which will be in the write-up. 47% of the children in Washington state are on Medicaid, which is known as Apple Health in our state. That's a big percent. That's 1/5 of Washington's adults on the Apple Health. 60% of the nursing home residents are covered by Apple Health. Washington state received $12.5 billion in federal Medicaid funding, accounting for more than half of all federal funding to the state. So what's that going to be to the state legislature? They're paying $12 billion, or we collectively lose $12 billion. And one thing that surprises most people, the greatest impacts are not going to be in the urban areas. particularly in the rural area, they're gonna be in central and eastern Washington. Ironically, they're gonna be in Dan Newhouse's district and Baumgartner's district, two people who voted in favor of these cuts. Those are the congressional districts that will be hardest hit. In Newhouse's district, which is the fourth congressional district, 70% of the children are covered by Apple Health. So I don't know if you saw the article in the Wenatchee World. It was a great article and I've got it listed here, but the CEOs, both Confluence and CBCH, talked about how this is going to be a disaster for our region. At Confluence, 68% of their revenue comes from Medicaid and Medicare. So 2/3 comes from one or the other programs or the other. Confluence is really important to learn with residents. What's going to happen when they lose their Medicaid funding? CBCH, 46% of their patients are on Medicaid. What's going to happen to them? The 3 rural hospitals in Okanagan County are already not as financially strong as Cascade. They have much heavier Medicaid patient loads. The CEO of Confluence talked about not only is there a direct impact to hospitals, there could be a domino effect. If some hospitals like the ones in Okanagan start closing, or CBCH have to cut way back, where are those people going to go? They're going to go to Confluence. They can go to the Confluence emergency room. They can ask for financial assistance from Confluence. So if you want to go to the Confluence emergency room, all those other hospitals have to shut down, might be a problem. If Confluence has to cut down, if you want some specialized service, you're a Leavenworth resident, your Cascade Medical is doing fine, but you need things in other places. So I asked 2 things. One is I would ask that you pass a resolution encouraging the governor, our congressional delegation, our county commissioners to do what they can to lobby Congress for this. And second of all, to stop the Medicaid cuts. And second of all, I ask if you have colleagues in Dan Newhouse's district, which is Okanagan County, Durand, Yakima, and Baumgartner's district, which is further east, to encourage them because those are the 2 Washington Congress people who voted in favor of these cuts. So those are the ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, just so that you're all aware, we are very much aware and are planning to move forward with specific resolutions around the Forest Service cuts and things moving ahead. So we're not going to just ignore them. But thank you for your comments. We've got a presentation now from Cascade Medical Center. We've got Brian and Pat here.
We've got a couple of NPCs to call some people in from the hallway.
Yeah.
While they're setting up.
So, good evening, everybody. I do know a lot of you, but not obviously. So, my name is Brian Pulse. I'm the EMS director down here at Cascade Medical. I've been raised here in Leavenworth and Cascade for 30 plus years. And Pat Sonder is with us tonight as well. He was CEO down at Cascade Medical, and also has a incredibly strong background in EMS, gold certified paramedic. Has a lot of background with hospital administration. So we wanted to spend just a little bit of your time tonight. Just a little bit of your time tonight to talk to you a little bit about the upcoming EMS levy. This is a levy that will be run next month in April. So we want to cover a little bit on the finance piece of it, a little bit on what our coverage areas look like, and then give you guys an opportunity if there's any questions that we can answer. If I can't, Pat certainly can. If you can't, find somebody. So this is a EMS tax levy that has been basically in effect for over 37 years. I remember these when I started. Every 6 years we do a tax levy, and they have been supported by the community all along. The tax levy this year is the same tax levy that was run in 2019. There's no difference. It's not a new tax levy, it's a renewal tax levy. We'll go over a little bit about that. But certainly community supported for a long time and greatly appreciated. So let's talk just a little bit about the finance part. So this tax levy will run at 50 cents per thousand assessed value property value. 50 cents is the highest amount you can run an EMS levy in the state at, so that's what they've notoriously been on that. Again, it's a 6-year levy. And for just an example, this is a generalized example of 500,000. We all know that property values vary dramatically. But with an assessed value of 500,000, you would have about $250 per year of levy, support levy. A little less than $21. So a little bit about the cost of readiness. This is what I've done all my life as a paramedic, and cost of readiness is there in EMS, which covers ambulance and the emergency department. And to have readiness in both of those departments is obviously very expensive. And the cost of readiness is to have those 24/7, whenever you need them, whether you call an ambulance, whether you come into Cascade Medical's emergency department. Whatever that need is that needs to be addressed, that is ready for you and available. So the cost of readiness is fairly expensive. So when we look at overall with emergency department and ambulance, these are two departments that we can recoup revenue, we can bill for our services for patients. Fortunately, by doing that, makes up only about 60% of the overall cost of what it costs to run those two departments. So we come up with a gap of about 40%. 20% of that we can cover with other cost centers in the hospital, other reducing centers. But 20% of that gap, we rely on EMS to help fill that. If we didn't have that, it's 40%, that would be a very difficult task to make up that much to keep the services like we did remember. So just a little bit about the area and what we do on the ambulance side, we cover about 1,200 square miles. The hospital district is fairly large. We cover from the summit of Stevens Pass, all of Plain, Lake Wenatchee, Chumstick, Leavenworth, Icicle, Dryden, Shasta, and Blue Pass, all the way to the summit of Blue Pass. And everywhere in between. That's kind of our core coverage area for the community services. And obviously we offer BLS and ALS services. ALS are paramedics, BLS are EMTs. And with all the equipment that they need to go out and provide those services and care for patients is all that on. In our emergency department, served almost 4,500 patients a year. I think it was close to 4,500 patients in 2024, 4,500 in 2024. We do have a lot of support staff in and around supports the emergency with diagnostics, radiology lab, wound care ultrasound. And we also have now, over the past few years, have been working on, we are now a level 3 stroke center, so certified stroke center with the state. And so what this allows is a higher level of care for that classification. Stroke patients can come to Cascade Emergency Department, get the more advanced care that they need, including clot busting medications, things like that. They work very closely with telehealth, Harvard Medical Center, which is level 1 on the west side, and get those patients in the system and where they need to be. But that treatment then is a lot faster to those patients. We also work with our partners on, this is on both sides, but primarily on the ambulance side. Our hospital district covers 3 fire districts, so Schlein County 3, which is Leavenworth proper, Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue, they have a big drawn out area for the plague of the sun of Stephen, basically. And then Schlein County District 6, their area actually begins at Prairie Street Scan. East is all considered District 6, so they do Shasta, Dryden, and Blue Pass. And then we work with the Schlein County Sheriff's Office. The Schlein County Sheriff's Office and the Department of Emergency Management are responsible for all search and rescue. So basically, anything that's off the beaten path, which we have a lot of off the beaten path here. So we work really closely in training with them as well. And we provide for our fire services, we provide EMT classes annually. First of every year, we do a 3-month EMT class primarily to support their volunteers. We also provide all their monthly training to keep up on the medical certifications. And we have ambulances embedded. We have an ambulance at Lake Wenatchee Fire and the fire station Plain that respond basically on all of our call natures that we do in that district. We have an ambulance at Station 3 here in town that we can pull and operate as a third out unit if we got really busy, things of that nature. And then working on District 6, they have a little bit less support staff down there. So eventually, and it's a little bit closer for us to get down there on a 911 basis than it is all the way up into the community. So we have coverage pretty well there. We work with them. They're bulking up their EMT staff and we support that with our trainings and they're getting a lot on these goals. So when we look at times when we talk about this readiness, when we look at response times and we consider those fire district personnel as far as ambulances responding out of those fire stations. When we talk about ambulances or basic Cascade medical centers, for a general call in this area, you're looking about 3 to 5 minutes of response. The Plain and Lake Wenatchee, anywhere from 4 to 15 minutes, depending on how those outlying ambulances are staffed and the ability to get those out the door and so forth. Now, if you jump down to where we didn't have ambulance services here, and you look at from Wenatchee, huge time difference. And I will say, being here for this long, that when we talk about working with proper, if you have an ambulance coming from Wenatchee, 30 to 40 minutes, if you're lucky, to get an ambulance service up here to help them. And also up in the Plain area, you're looking at greater than 60 minutes. And that's just travel time and availability on there. And they do a lot to help and back us up on certain things. But they're busy down there as well. And so having those times up there is greater than 60 minutes. So just a reminder that the ballots, you need to know about some of the first of the vote. The election is on 4/22. And we would just encourage you all to get out and vote. So, no, that's kind of a high level overview of kind of what EMS does here, between the ambulance and ER. But we'd be happy to answer any questions and questions. Any questions?
You got any signs you want, have what folks put out?
I think we did signs this year. This level, so.
Okay.
I said a statement, thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah,
It's great news about the level 3 certification.
it's fantastic. It's already paid dividends.
Great, thank
You
you.
guys are an easy group. Thank you guys.
And we'll deal with 4 too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yes, I love it. Got a few chairs in here if people want to come in. Get as many of you in here as we can. All right, since we know that the majority of you are here to deal with, well, I'm assuming, okay? That might be a big assumption, but assuming that you're here to deal with the ridgeline issue, we're gonna go ahead and move that up and deal with that issue first, so that. Yeah. Well, that's nice to get a little applause, but let me just say a couple of things before. First of all, that we're all members here of a community, and we are going to treat each other with respect. We're going to agree that we can disagree on things, but we're going to do that in a way, again, that shows that we are all members of this same community. We can, again, agree to disagree, but that we all have the best interests in mind. And sometimes those best interests that we have may not be aligned with one another. But we're going to leave when this is all said and done and still be a part of that same community. So we will, first, I want to just get a read from how many of you, because I know some are just here to observe, but how many of you plan to speak? So, well, that's not a whole ton of you. So we'll keep it at then. We have a 3-minute normally, but if all of you were going to speak, I was going to lower that down. So, but it doesn't look like we need to do that. So we'll go ahead and begin that process. Please, though, again, you're addressing the issue only, not personalities or persons, and your comments are made to the council. It's their decision, so it's not making them to one another or comments of that nature, but it is, again, addressing the council as a whole. And to do that, we'll ask you again, this is not a public hearing. And again, to just set the boundaries and what's really taking place here, it's a chance for Leavenworth to give its opinion about a matter that is not within Leavenworth. There still is a lot of assumptions that somehow Leavenworth's got a decision that we can make to determine whether or not something goes up on the hill. That is not the case. It is completely out of our jurisdiction. What this resolution is about is our expression, if it passes, of concern to the county, who will make the decision about some of the processes and some of our concerns about its impact. That's what it's about, but it's only our opinion to the county. So please understand that, because I can't tell you how many times I've been answering from people who say, how can you allow? We have nothing to do with that, all right? So we'll begin then. I'm going to ask that somebody put this motion on the floor, and then we can ask for comments, and then we can have our discussion. So
Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 06-2025, opposition to ridgeline development.
moved by Shane, seconded by Mike. Okay. All right, now we've got a motion on the floor. Do any of you want to say anything before we hear, or? Yes.
Yeah, I would just like to thank everyone who's written letters and made comments. I'd like to say that I was a little disappointed with the lack of understanding to this this issue, and the fact that we were being called out by members of the community that, we were allowing this to happen, or that we had any part in the construction or the issuing of permitting. And so it was a little disappointing to read some of those comments.
Any others before we open it?
I would like to reiterate Shane's thanks for all of the comments that we received. My takeaway is a little bit different. I see this as a great educational opportunity for those who may not fully understand the depth of this conversation. And I think that this is a great opportunity for our community to come together and have their voice be heard. And I want to thank everybody from city limit residents to county residents to even our visitors and tourists that come and have expressed one way or another how they feel on this topic. It's obviously a topic that many people have a position on, and I'm grateful for the community turnout tonight so that we can hear those local voices at our city council meeting tonight. So thank you for coming.
Any other comments up here before we?
I encourage all of you to go to the county as a mass as well, because they're the ones that are making the decision. And some of you were at the meeting recently, and it's from my understanding
that the permit hasn't been completely satisfied and done yet, and even if it meets those requirements, the county will pass that permit. And they are not interested in amending those permitting opportunities so they're not going to change their mind. If it fits the requirements in the box, it will go forward as the county. So again, encourage all of you to write the same letters or copy those letters that were sent into us, attend meetings, voice your opinion, because we're all citizens of Chelan County and it is ultimately in their control and their decision at this point. And I would use a cliche, I have faith in the property owner to make, who cares about this community, to listen to that the community doesn't necessarily want this, is what I'm feeling. And so I have faith that the property owner would care enough about this community where he's lived for many decades to not go forward with the project. It's his choice, really, ultimately. The others.
I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I wish that every council meeting had even half this many of you. I mean, we make a lot of decisions, and it's important that we hear from people, and we don't. So, thanks.
And most of those decisions are very boring and 100%. So I don't think you need to be there. But it is nice when we know that there is passion involved in this community and that you show up with that passion. And again, passion is great. I'm a very passionate person. But we also, again, respect and deal with that passion in a way that's healthy and embraces each other as members of the community. So
I just want to add to some of the previous comments and also thank you for being here. There's a few people who've expressed concern that this is none of our business as the city, with city council, that we have no business weighing in on what's going on in the county around us. And I disagree fully, and I've heard from so many people in our community that are concerned about it. And when we hear from a large number of our constituents, we have an obligation to communicate those concerns with our neighbors. And that's really what this is about, is we're taking the opportunity, or we're going to vote on whether we're going to do that. But we want to take the opportunity to communicate to our neighbors, the county, and just share with them the concerns that all of you have shared with us. So we aren't taking a side on religion or what is going up there. We just want to make sure that the perception of fairness is being achieved. That's my 2 cents on that. So I hope that you guys all understand that, that we are not anti anything or pro anything with this. We just want procedure to be followed, and so we can stand behind it.
All right. Last chance before, then you'll get a chance after as well. But who do we have that raised their hand that would like to step up? And all right, I wonder who you are. Allison would like to address us.
Allison Miller, 337 Prospect Street. Thank you, council, for opening this issue up to public comment. I appreciate putting it on. I respect that our community has diverse views and many people have opinions about why they do or do not want to cross on Tumwater Mountain. I am just going to talk about the rules. I respect that there is quite a lot of freedom to do what you like on private property. And I respect the regulations that place limitations on development to protect everyone impacted by what happens on private property. Chelan County Code, which has jurisdiction for this property, includes regulations which exist to prevent a prominent structure from being built in a location like the top of Tumwater Mountain. Any development in the county or city, regardless of scale, and even regardless of whether or not a building permit is required, must fit within the district use chart of that jurisdiction. The district use chart determines if that use is allowed in a given zone. Chelan County Community Development has not determined the use under which this proposal is being reviewed. The use is a sign, and signs are not allowed on this property based on its zoning and current use. No other uses in the district use chart are relevant. Only if a project is allowed in a given location can the county go on to determine whether or not it complies with regulations such as height limits and illumination. So basically the proposal is outright not allowed. Is black and white. In addition, the county may have incorrectly deemed the proposal SEPA exempt, and the proposal appears to violate scenic highway regulations in the state code. The county is responsible for the enforcement of the state scenic highway code as well. Leavenworth's code is far more restrictive regarding signs and other structures. However, Chelan County code is perfectly sufficient to limit the construction of prominent structures such as this. And if the county makes an exception to their code by issuing this permit, it will have a significant impact on the city. I appreciate the council considering this resolution to indicate to the county that we are not willing to accept negative impacts due to the county's failure to follow its own code.
I would say that maybe she had some support, but let's try to keep our applause away, because that's not really what this is again about. Part of this is just hearing from one another and having that, but okay, enough said there, please. Let's just listen and respectfully move to the next. Who would like to come next? Yes, sir.
My name is Glenn Peterson. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for hearing me out. I'll try to be brief. I think thank the Leavenworth City Council for providing lots of input to the county. I think the county had plenty of reasons to deny this proposal. I've heard SEPA, I've heard fire life safety, wildland fire, fuel shed, et cetera, but the one thing I haven't heard yet or read is loss of value to property. So I am on Suncrest, I believe, in the county. But we look right at where that cross would be. I can see it out, the antenna out when we do. And I'd like to know how we can be compensated for the loss of value of our property. That's not for you to answer.
You're right, we're not.
But that's something I haven't seen in any of the articles or anything yet. That's a substantial hit to the value of our property and what's called the enjoyment of our property. So if you could bring that up into your commentary, I'd appreciate it.
All right. No clapping?
No clapping, no booing.
Or booing, yes, right, no booing either. We had somebody else, somebody like to get up? Pardon?
Give us
Oh, okay, come on.
First, I want to say I'm an ER nurse in Wenatchee, and I think Lou spoke earlier, brought up a lot of important things that we don't have to worry about seeing every day, but they will affect you every day, so thank you.
Name and address.
Name?
I'm Christina.
Address.
Georgia, I live a couple blocks away. With this issue, it's the Joneses property. I've never seen no trespassing signs. I've been up there a bunch. They have train tracks that they have built that are irrevocable, will be there forever. Impacted that mountain for way longer. But I bring that up because I feel like they are my neighbors. With this, the reason I live in this town, I love about it, and I think what tourism funding or Iowa stars. That is what I ask, is that there is not a giant bright thing that we all have to stare at that impacts stars mountain line that we have to see every day, that it stays natural. Since this is a place that your neighbors, as my neighbor, that's what I have.
No. Anyone else?
My name is York Bauer, 11017 Titus Road. Step the hill here. I'm a Bavarian American. My dad was an immigrant born in Munich. And we've lived here off and on for more than 20 years. And as you can imagine, the Bavarian theme is near and dear to my heart personally, but it's also what built this town and continues to sustain it. And I think we have to keep that in mind. I'm going to make 3 points here, but I want to be clear that I have no religious affiliation. I'm not Christian. I'm not affiliated in any way with any organized religion. There are more than 1,000 publicly visible crosses in the Bavarian Alps. And it's because of the heavily Catholic area, even though today it is heavily secular. It's part of the tradition. And I think we all probably would do well to keep some of those things in mind and keep it with the theme. That's the first point. The second is I'm a fan of private property rights. And I think we have to respect what the county does in light of that. And then the final point is, as was heard earlier today, we have, in my opinion, personally, far more important issues to work on than this particular one, and time is a limited resource. I want to say thank you to everybody up here for the time you devote to our town and making it better. And I just think we have to be aware that, you know, time is limited. We should concentrate that time on the things that are truly important and threaten our community in the form of wildfires, for example. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you. And I don't think we'll get any applause.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. It's nice to be on this side of it. Hello, my name is Sean Smith. I'm Chelan County Commissioner for District 2, which is where we all live. In the 50 years since I've been here, I've seen Leavenworth go through many changes, some good and some not so good. Being here this long, I've seen change in the people. The people who converted this town to Little Bavaria have died off, and this town is their legacy. The only thing that has remained constant is the love we all have for the mountains and its people. The tourists come and go. We feed them, provide a place for them to sleep, try to sell them a few souvenirs. But more than that, we sell them an experience that they will hopefully tell their friends about around the world. While attending Upper Valley Christian School as a kid, our soccer field was where the Museum Hotel is today. The Johnson family saw the potential, staked a claim, and they struck gold. They have continued to build and create an experience that visitors around the world share with their friends. And Leavenworth is still on the map because it is still relevant because of those investments that families like the Johnsons and my own have done. We each have our own opinion on a lighted cross on a hill and what it represents. I'm not here to convince any of you of anything. This is America. Controversy is not what the Johnsons intended to create when they allowed a local group of men to build a cross on the top of Tumwater Mountain. Instead, they were hoping to add another landmark that visitors and locals alike would catch out of the corner of their eye and say, this is a cool place. I want to come back. The ridicule and the threats that the family has endured and the hit to their livelihood is unacceptable. I too have felt it in my business and am saddened by it how it's financially affected my employees and the business I have built. For those of us who live outside of the city limits and cannot vote for leadership, we vote with our investments and our dollars in the city by providing jobs to the locals. Rob Johnson's original intent with the property was to use it as a tool to encourage the U.S. Forest Service to swap it with another piece of land on the Blue Pass side of Mountain Home Road. It's not even visible to Leavenworth. His goal was to fix a patchwork piece of connected property that the Forest Service owns between his. By doing so, it would increase his ability to continue building things that better the visitor experience, invest in our community, and apply proper forest management for fire mitigation. With that, I'm here to announce the land swap plan for the Tumwater property is underway, halting the Laddie Cross project indefinitely. With Rob Johnson's blessings, I can tell you that I initiated the conversation between him and the Forest Service, District Ranger Eric Attacker, thus negotiating the swap and putting this issue to rest. My hope now is that the community will begin to heal and that we'll remember why we live here and what we provide together to millions of people from around the world. I'd encourage you not to take the step of passing a resolution tonight. We talked about the good neighbor policy that the mayor is so fond of. I believe that this would be the first finger in the eye of the county, saying if we don't disagree on something, we're just going to litigate it. And that's not what we're about as neighbors. So I'd encourage you to pause, deliberate, and take a different route. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we clap at that? You can clap at that. I mean, it's squash. Thanks for starting. Beauty of it.
We have a one online we're gonna listen to.
There's more commentary.
Can you
hear me now?
I could see you too. You want to see him?
Are we gonna?
Just a minute, we've still got one online that.
Oh,
That
can
is-
you hear me now? How about now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Kurt.
Well, I mean, I just heard the commissioner's comments just like everybody else for the first time there. So I agree with the notion and the sentiment that says, look, in the spirit of rebuilding neighborly interactions, I'm happy to pause my comments on it, but I would definitely love to hear commentary from the council to make sure I heard what I thought I heard. And then I'm not jumping too far in conclusion, but given that the spirit of the commissioner's comments, I'll forego mine at this time.
Thanks, Kurt. And I would, in that same spirit, just say that I would entertain a withdrawal of the motion for now and see.
Wait.
No, what?
Can I,
You've already had your comment.
can I ask you a question?
Okay, what's your question?
Yeah, has the building permit been withdrawn?
There is not a building permit completed. There's not
Well,
been
there's a building
completed.
permit under there.
We can find all of that out, but this is not needed.
Don't withdraw the motion.
No, we can withdraw the motion. We can reintroduce it there is plenty of time. There's still snow up there. They're not getting a completed application in tomorrow. Okay. Huh?
It's already been done, yeah.
They've got multiple steps that require more impact to that than they're able to do right now. So believe me, we're not in a rush this moment. And in the spirit of what he says, we can check it out between now and next time that we gather. We can check out and make sure that things are proceeding. But I would suggest that in that spirit,
Mr. Mayor, I move that we withdraw the motion on the table.
Don't I?
it has to be the people that moved it and seconded it that would withdraw.
I withdraw my motion.
I would like to have more discussion. We can. as council. I disagree with the notion that communicating with our neighbors is divisive. I'm a big communicator. I believe that we should share openly with each other if we have concerns. And all we're doing is sharing the concerns our community has. And they clearly aren't resolved right now because this is in motion. In this letter, we've had tremendous outpouring of support and opposition for it, but mostly a massive amount of support for this. And this is not a thumb in the face. And I can tell you, I would sit down and talk to you about it. I talked to Dina about this communication. She expressed that the county would never communicate to us about something that's not their business. And I respectfully disagree with that. I think we welcome interaction with our partners and our neighbors in this area. Leavenworth has a big impact on the county, and we partner with our local agencies to help make the experience better for everybody around us. And that's all we're doing here. And I think if, after hearing me at least, and the spirit that I would be voting on, is just representing our constituents, communicating to our neighbors, knowing that you're already doing a great job. And that we just want to just make sure that the people who talk to us are being heard. So I don't think delaying this and having another meeting down the road when situation changes is going to make the healing process begin. I think that we share the information that we've suggested we might share to our neighbors, and we move on from there. And then no matter what happens with the exchange, we've done our part, and we've done it kindly and with respect towards our neighbors. Delaying it is not going to make anything better.
With all due respect, it's not just a resident that just spoke. It was the county commissioner.
Yeah.
Said that this is done. So what?
Said it was a process.
Process.
Okay, so if we delay it, if we find it's not in process and it doesn't happen, we can revisit it. But right now, this is not our mandate to the county. This is just a resolution. This is as good as communicating, like you said, communicating. The mayor can call the county. The county commissioner just is on our side, is on our community side. You can't.
Well, if I may, man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk all over you. I think one of the real corrosive things, not just in political discourse, but in discourse on the whole, I think we all deal with is a fundamental assumption of bad faith. When we're talking about conversations, we're always assuming that the other side is trying to put one over on us. And I think what I just heard was a county commissioner saying, this is in process. We are expecting that this is going to happen. That's our end goal, and that's our assumption. So for me, it's hard for me to take that and for him to essentially tell me that passing something like this is a moot point, because we're already working on this, and for us to say, yeah, but we're still going to pass this because what does that do? I feel like that operates from an assumption of bad faith, that the commissioners are trying to tell us to just hold on while they work on something on the side. I'm going to take Commissioner Smith at his word that they are working on something. And if they pull a fast one, which I do not anticipate, but if they did pull a fast one, let the record show, right? That people operated in bad faith. That is not what I'm thinking. So I guess what I'm saying is, let's assume good intent. And I'm willing to withdraw the motion. Because if I come out looking like a chump at the end of this, at least I operated on the assumption of good faith from my fellow elected official. And I'd rather be on the side of it.
I want to express again, I don't believe that you're blowing smoke, and I don't think that this is going to come back to bite us. And I strongly don't feel that we're putting a thumb in your eye county by passing a resolution. I think the opposite is true in my mind, that by not representing our constituents, the way they've asked us overwhelmingly to represent them, is putting a thumb in their eye. And that is what I'm more concerned about, because we can have one-on-one conversations with our fellow elected officials, and we can talk about it. We can clearly express our intent, and it's not derogatory intent. But to all the people who've shown up and all the people who've written in to the city and talked to us, that is people that I think we're at a bigger risk of disservice. So this is just a piece of paper, and it's written in good faith. So that's my opinion, and I do not believe we should withdraw the motion, the resolution.
Zeke, I haven't heard from you.
Yeah. So. Like everybody in this room, by the way, thanks for showing up. Appreciate that. I think it kind of shows that this committee, this community is one that cared a great deal about what's here. For me, I struggle with this because I was sort of on, I could see both sides very clearly. I think from now what we have, that I don't see a purpose in moving forward with this resolution, because one of the main players has shown a position that sort of basically absolutely eliminates the need for this. And so, although I've heard a great deal from the community about this, I don't think we as a council need to move ahead and I believe that what this is, to me, what this is about, as Clint mentioned, is trust. Okay, and that's kind of a rare thing in this nation right now. And I think that this is the way, without any loss, that as a council, we can trust what was said tonight as bona fide and let it be. And that if it's not, we still have an action. And I don't think I'm insulting my constituents by doing that. I think I'm trying to demonstrate that sometimes you get new information on something and makes the other stuff not maybe irrelevant, but not as important. So for me, I say that we hold the resolution off and withdraw. I'm not going to withdraw because I didn't make it, but that's where my vote probably will go.
And
That's good.
we're getting
questions.
Public comment ever closed, so.
This wasn't an official public comment time. This was us allowing comments from the public, but we're gonna complete what the council wants to say. And then we'll decide if there's more to be said, heard.
Could we ask questions before they redo the motion?
I would just love some clarification.
Clarification on what?
So from what I understood from the previous comment was that the cross on the Tumwater, that construction is halted, but it will be reconstructed somewhere else.
No.
Okay.
No, there, a swap of land would mean that would go into Forest Service land, that piece on Tumwater. Would no longer be privately held. It would be swapped for a different piece. And
I'd like to thank Commissioner Smith for joining us tonight. He certainly didn't need to take time out of his family's evening to come out here and represent not only the county position, but also the time that he has taken to reach out and connect with that property owner and really deep dive into the intentions and the desires of that property owner, not only for that site, but also big picture, future wise, and learning about the land swap intention. I think that is really favorable new information that we haven't had until tonight. And I think that those against the structure that is partially constructed now can feel really good about that new information that has been brought to us tonight by Commissioner Smith. So thank you for coming and joining us and helping us see a larger picture on this topic and giving us information that we did not have until this evening. For me personally, I think what Clint articulated tonight, I probably could not have articulated any better. I think that it's really important that we really lean into our relationships with our surrounding county commissioners, our neighbors with Chelan County, and really try and build on that relationship rather than tear it down. We are constantly working with Chelan County, particularly in our urban growth area. We currently are trying to swap out some of our urban growth area for other areas so that we have more opportunity for future development. And this is an opportunity for us to really lean into that relationship and create some positivity rather than be divisive and pull each other apart and remove potential future conversations for the betterment of our community. And For that and many other reasons that we work with Chelan County on a regular basis for the betterment of our own city limits and our urban growth area. I believe that we have the information that we need to let this sit for now. And if this comes up again in the future for some reason, we absolutely have a good start on another form of communication with the county to encourage them.
Sure, I've heard from you.
Excuse me. I vote to withdraw the resolution and I can't think of anything else to add. And I can't get my throat.
Yeah, the hang up here is I'm not quite sure what to do because we've got a second that is indicated that he's not willing to withdraw.
He doesn't withdraw.
Then we
He's
vote.
obviously
Sounds
there's
like,
five.
sounds like I'm the only one.
We'll have to vote it and vote again.
Yeah, sounds like I'm the only one. So if the council wants to withdraw, then I'll support that.
Okay.
But I do want to remind everybody that we have, how many people got up and talked today that live outside the city limits? And we allow them to communicate with us.
Right.
So I just want to reinforce that we are communicating and we welcome communication from the county to us.
And we have never said you can't come and talk to us unless you live within city limits. We've never done that. We wouldn't do that because you're still a part of the community and that you're in the county. And that's just an affirmation of what you were just saying, Mike. So I am hearing perhaps that Shane, you would withdraw the motion.
I withdrew my
And you
second.
would withdraw your second. Okay, and again, for those of you concerned, we get it. But at the same time, this is not something that is just means it's going to go away unless it goes away. And then we can revisit. So that's what you're going to have to show some trust that we are not going to simply drop it without some reassurances that this is being heard and taken care of. So we don't have an issue on that. We will then go on to our next issue, which is to deal with the Cascade Medical Center parking agreement that Zeke, you wanted to ask some questions and brought out, so.
Yeah,
Thank you again, all of you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presence.
Don't go.
Yeah, don't go.
Yeah, you're not staying?
You don't have to go. City government, yay.
What are we
So
doing
you're
now?
saying the rest of this is boring, huh?
I don't want to be last person.
Thank you.
They did carry some of that.
Sign this form or sign papers.
Oh.
Just like on the, or.
Hey, John.
No, I see Thursday.
It was, so last two, and then we had like 4 of us, so there was like 8 of us.
I was going to get the whole recognize you, give you.
I know it.
It's okay. Yeah, right.
Meeting to come to.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, guys.
For the resolution. I was the only one.
Yeah.
Now, here we are. Welcome to my club. Welcome to my trust tree.
You'll have plenty of numbers.
Yeah. So I'm on, yes. This is what we do, like, the disco ball drops down, get some cookies.
Okay.
I was gonna bring a bunch of little cross cookies, because I was dessert tonight.
All right, have us. We want to get moving. Here, Zeke, you have.
I do want to get
a
out of here. I do understand some of this operation here as far as the city using personnel to enforce parking between certain hours for the hospital and that such. What isn't clear to me is the titles, the city's CMC available spaces and the CMC property public available spaces. Are these what? Are these different parking areas? That's
Yeah,
what-
so the agreement dates back to 2000 whereby Cascade Medical gets the use of some on-street stalls from the city during operating hours. And we don't charge for those.
Okay.
They also have they have historically had a great deal. They were our pilot project for our permit parking program in Blewett. That's the pit.
Okay.
So they were getting,
okay.
they're getting a huge break. We were charging at that time when I had this conversation with Diane and Pat, thank you. They were paying $25 a stall and we were charging market rate $139 a stall.
Okay.
So what they called Shannon and myself in for a meeting to discuss some of the enforcement that we were doing and also the change of hours. So when we started this agreement, they were not open on Saturdays. They started opening up clinics on Saturdays and it presented some problem with our enforcement. Because under the agreement, we got all their spaces on the weekends to sell, and then they got our on-street stalls during the week. And that was the agreement.
Okay.
So they asked for some changes. We met. We now understand that they have a clinic on Saturday, so they're using those stalls on Saturday. So we're not able to generate revenue from those stalls on Saturday.
Okay.
So we made some changes based on their request. And in the same time, when we asked you guys to adopt the new rate and fee schedule, we put in a nonprofit rate for our permit holders, a 20% discount.
Mm-hmm.
So we also at the same time lowered the rate from $139 in the Blewett parking lot down to $125. So they are now paying $100 per month per stall in the Blewett lot versus the $25 they were paying. That's what I asked for.
Okay.
Because we're losing revenue from the Cascade Medical site on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay, so I didn't know the Blewett pit, whatever you want to call it, was part of this. That's the other section. Okay. Great. Thanks, Selby.
Welcome.
All I needed.
Is it all of that articulated in this?
It was articulated in an email that I sent to you guys a few weeks ago as part of my Friday updates.
Which you religiously read.
I
did.
I did read that, but there
did
was
read
a
that.
big disconnect from that email to this interlocal agreement. I did not see any of that articulated in this amendment. And I was confused. I'm glad Zeke asked to pull this because it wasn't clear to me what this amendment was about. And I feel like the language in the amendment does not articulate what you just described to us. It's missing all of that context.
Understood.
All right.
We'll still entertain a motion.
Still,
Is that additional information that can be added so that it's understood? If you
This was
happen to go
drafted
away?
by them and it was approved by our council, our city attorney, sorry. If you want us to go back and make the language clear, I can do that.
Just need to go.
Well, if you could include what you just explained tonight.
well, what are you saying? That the Blewett piece isn't in this? Because that's separate.
Yeah, it's right here, section 2.C of the 2000 agreement is hereby amended.
Or that's in section 2?
It's, number 1. Now therefore, number 1, section 2C of the 2000 agreement is amended.
Right.
That references the 25 permit stalls as part of the pilot parking program that we entered into with them in the year 2000, or I guess the year 2018, sorry.
Okay. I just wanted some clarification. I trust that you guys have it. It would have been nice to know what spaces these were. And I didn't know it was in an email,
Yeah,
so
understood. I'll do better with my write-ups in the future.
done deal.
Is it only items 1 and 2 that are a part of the amendment, or is the second number 2, 4, 3, 4, and 5 also?
Oh, my goodness. So it's amending is section 2C, section 3C of the agreement.
So just the first 1 and 2, not the second 2 through 5.
Correct.
I'm lost.
My confusion was also formatting.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure exactly what.
This is what I was furnished to me by Cascade Medical's attorneys. The only change that I made was section D1, where I inserted the rate fee schedule and the 20% discount nonprofit rate for the Blue.
quiet.
Is it imperative to our systems and processes internally and our relationship with CMC that this has to be approved tonight, or is there a way that we can sharpen this up just a little
We can
bit?
sharpen this up if you send me some
Give
recommendations.
recommendations, yeah. It's gone through two attorneys. We don't want to sharpen it too much.
No, I think just a little bit of that context so there's better understanding, and it seems like there might be a couple of formatting issues that would make it a little bit more understandable
happy to
to
go back
those
to
not
that.
involved.
Yeah, no problem, not a problem.
Thank you.
Selby, just to clarify, we're all seeking clarification, but
Yeah.
this isn't, we're not changing the number of stalls, the location of stalls. All we're clarifying is basically
The rate.
the rate
For the stalls,
for those.
and then our
Hours
enforcement
of operation.
and hours of our ability to enforce on their law.
Yeah.
Right, change it.
I almost feel like it could be simplified just to say that. Like this just makes it more complicated.
Yeah.
Boston.
I need a map.
So I think she's saying, don't give it to a third lawyer, because then you're gonna make it worse.
Just trying to squeeze this by consent on the same night they're giving us a presentation. No, the original agreement has a map that shows all of this. So I didn't provide that to you. I didn't give you a red line version of the original agreement, and that solved me a culpa. So.
But to be clear, the questions here are for clarification. No one has an issue with.
No issue with.
Yeah.
No.
I will bring it back at your next meeting.
I just like to understand what I'm approving. So I really did. I like that.
Fair.
I gotta be able to slip.
How dare you?
Don't understand everything.
Oh, my God.
Nothing's gonna slip by you guys, that's for sure.
I refer back to my email a couple days ago.
We will look for that.
All right,
Like 3 weeks ago.
let's go on to our next item then. Item 6 is resolution on sewer utility rates. Chantel.
Thank you, Mayor. So council, we're coming back. Round 3 on this particular item that we're trying to resolve. I hope you've had time to read through the bit of a lengthy write-up and the RCW that our attorney Graftra has reviewed for us as well. One thing I want to note from our last one, we were aware of WRI, the school district and the pool. And then we went back and re-looked at every commercial account that we had in our system, and we did find one church that also had the same calculation as similar to the school districts. So that is what I presented in this, was to cover schools, churches, and nonprofits, as well as our municipal pool, with slightly different calculations, but the schools, churches, and nonprofits would all be treated with the exact same calculation, which is what the school currently has. And looking at that particular one, it will increase slightly for WRI. I did not look at the ramifications to the church one in particular, but I would guess that it's probably going to be a slight increase too. Both of those, I believe, were at the direction of a former public works director set at a residential rate. The WRI building, it actually is a residential location as well. So it wasn't too far of a stretch, but it was definitely different. So at this point, you have 3 options in front of you. One, you can pass this resolution as it's been presented tonight. Attorney Grafton did look at it, and without knowing too much more, he was okay with the whereases and how it was laid out. He did suggest, though, that if we do pass it, then we should probably look closer at the code and look at this RCW just to come up with some justifications of why this is being incorporated, because we're not dealing with these as a separate class. And that is how our current code is written, is that it's classes that use similar discharges, or in our case, the way that we do sewer rates is based on the amount of water use. And the third action item potentially is to not do anything at all, which would be quite detrimental, as you know, to our school district in particular, who would lose at least one paralegal in order to fund the increased costs to their utility bills. With that all being said, I would entertain any comments or suggestions that you might have. If you do want to pass this resolution, in which direction you would like me to go with considering a change to the code. My thoughts in particular with H and I that were provided under the RCW. The H one will be, as Tom put it, a no-brainer for the nonprofit in particular. But since the school district is not technically a nonprofit, they probably wouldn't fall under that, and same with the pool. So under I is stated as any other matters which present a reasonable difference as a ground for distinction. And in my write-up, I did mention that there is definitely a significant public benefit for outdoor green space foliage that is utilized by the public without a cost basis, as is done for nonprofits. So we could work with that language to play with it, to try to bring you code change for that. But open to your suggestions.
So Chantel, they don't have a sewer charge at this time?
They do have a sewer
But it's
charge.
associated with their water use. It's not
Right.
associated with their sewer discharge. Because they
Okay.
don't have a sewer meter.
Okay,
And
right.
that's the problem
That's
we're
not,
trying to fix.
all right.
We had it in our old resolution and we eliminated it through council asked to just eliminate it,
Yeah.
not realizing what the ramifications were when we did that. Now that we've done it, we had to go back and figure out what would it be, and it came to the tune of. Gosh, I wanna say it was close to $50,000 a year increase to the school district for a sewer rate.
Right. So,
Yeah.
no. Are we only dealing with, so it's just municipal pools, schools, churches, nonprofits? That's what
Correct.
we're trying to.
And there could potentially be a few more in the community that would fall under this once we pass it. That could come forward to us and ask us about it. To our knowledge at this time, most other facilities have their irrigation on a separate meter. So this would be a moot point for
Right.
them.
Right.
And we won't be creating any more of this in the future.
Right, you're right.
No.
We don't require in code that they have a separate meter.
We don't require it in code. There is a for-profit that is doing it, but based on the way this resolution is written, a for-profit would not qualify.
But I covers it. The attorney says I covers,
I could cover it if we work the
Rework
language
those.
and put a proper whereas into it and write the code that way.
Okay. Mayor, would you entertain a motion? Yeah.
The Leavenworth City Council moves to approve resolution 05-2025 sewer utility rates, non-separated water irrigation lines.
Second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Shane. Any other questions, comments?
we're still gonna rework it though. Do we need to?
So that was my next question. If you, as soon as you vote, if you pass it, then I will ask for further direction.
Okay.
Any other questions before you pass? All those in favor, let me see your hand. It passes unanimously. Now, Travis?
Follow-up questions?
You have a question, follow up?
So direction is, would you like me to work with Attorney Graff to just to look at code and see if we can rework it in a more specific way that doesn't isolate these? Because I know what the intent was. We
Right,
didn't want to create something special that
right.
wasn't open to anyone. And that's kind of what this is doing.
Yeah, I'd like to see if
Just
you
to
can
look
work
at
with,
it.
yeah.
And I'll bring it back to you. It could be that the recommendation is, you know what, this is what past practice has been.
Okay.
Let's just roll with it. Or he may come up with a few suggestions for the code changes. So I'll see what I can do.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
All right.
Thanks for your help.
Thank you.
All right. Maggie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm gonna keep this brief. So this discussion probably should have been in a study session, but they've been so jam-packed, I didn't have an opportunity to fit it in there, and it's kind of time sensitive just because of our comp plan update. So this discussion has to do with the urban growth area swap. And just a little background for those of you that may not have been aware of this process. So since 2022, this has been on the docket to look at first, it started as a UGA expansion.
And so we hired HBL Consulting to do an analysis to look at areas we might want to grow our UGA. This included, a lot of community outreach. We did a public engagement plan, online surveys, public engagement night, and then a presentation to the city council all in 2022. So we did get feedback from the community at that point in time. After the analysis and then the allocations came out from Chelan County for the 2026 comp plan, it showed that we did have adequate land capacity for our potential growth in the next 20 years. And so we kind of halted at that, knowing that per RCW, we could not expand our UGA. So then just this last year, there was a House bill or a substitute Senate bill that kind of changed, added for a provision for a net zero swap, which is basically you have to meet 8 criteria. And looking at maybe based on growth patterns and needs for developable lands, we could do a net zero swap with the county or have the county sponsor a net zero swap where maybe we take out some areas that aren't intended in the next 20 years for growth and move the UGA to an area that might be a more ideal location for urban growth based on future utilities and connectivity and roads and things like that. So we asked AHBL to look at this, and that's what's in your packet tonight is their memo. This was, they gave us 3 options to look at. Again, nothing's perfect. This was just to put it out there as ideas. And this is with the county. It was provided to the county when we got the memo last month. And I believe they were having an executive session just this week. I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because it's my understanding, I don't think the county is going to move this forward just based on discussions I've had. But we'll wait to hear from them. I won't make assumptions, but from what I've heard, they're not in favor of any of this. But tonight, I just wanted to put it out there for you, maybe get some feedback on maybe which option you would prefer out of the 3. But again, I don't want to waste time if it's, I can bring this up in the future when I have more information. That might be wise.
So Megan, would this, I mean, let's just say for a scenario that we have wetlands within our boundary. And we could possibly, if they would go for it, swap more developable land, something like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the things they looked at here are areas that are more intended for growth versus those areas. And if you look at the areas to the west, that if you have the more steep slopes and those kind of critical areas, we also have dead end streets with not a lot of connectivity for future utilities. And so, looking up north toward Titus was an option just because it does move. We already have some services in the UGA, some sewer services already. So, they just looked at that versus our UGA being west of the city and going north.
Can you give me an understanding of the county? Do they like it when we absorb part of the UGA, or do they not want us to, or what's a position? Do they want we give them less desirable lands and they'll give us development lands? Like, are they looking at they're being nice or like they're trying to win in this thing?
It's really up to them. This is their decision. It's something we can say like we would like you to consider this, but it's part of their comprehensive plan update. Yeah. This is really the ideal time to look at our urban growth boundaries. We're looking at our plan for future growth. We've adopted all these tools for, on paper, yes, we have enough land to meet the need of the number of people we need to account for our population. But if you look at the land we have in the UGA right now, being able to use these new tools like cottage housing and to accommodate 2 ADUs per lot is not really as feasible on some of the existing lots in the UGA. Also looking, we can't provide utilities to properties that are outside we you can through a process, but like sewer is typically not provided to properties outside our UGA. So being able to grow those services and expand those services, larger parcels of land to be able to develop for future growth, and that development paying for development, paying for that expansion of our systems. It's really looking at where as a community you see us growing. And it could be that the boundaries are fine the way they are. It's just this analysis gave us options to look at based on those criteria in RCW. Again, I shared this with the planning commission this month, and they were kind of not in favor of any of them. It was kind of a hodgepodge of, well, I like this, but I like this. And so none of this is set in stone. This is just a memo. It's not to make a decision on tonight. It was just to share information with you and kind of show you the progression that we worked on over the last 3 years. This could go nowhere, but it was something on the docket that the council wanted us to look at. And so this is where we landed. Again, this was just a time to discuss, not to make any decisions.
And as the county suggested that they're not really interested right now talking about any of it, or are there any particular parts they didn't like?
I haven't gotten the feedback on what they've reviewed or any specifics, just that I don't think they want is the feedback I've got.
We'll find out.
But we'll find out more.
We'll find out.
I don't-
Useful to get feedback from us at this point?
No, I mean, I was assuming I would have feedback by now, and that's why it was on. I wish I would have done this on a study session, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
But I did want to, since it's with the county right now, and it's out there and we shared it at our community engagement night, I didn't want you to be in the dark. I wanted you to know what was going on. So really, this is just to include you, fill you in on what's going on. I will give you an update so we know what direction we're going. But from initial feedback, that's what I'm hearing.
So I think, Megan, yeah, you just bring us up to date here. I find that option, of course, the water reservoir at the top of Ski Hill into UGA, that got an EGA, there's a promise there for development, and we have 5 acres, so, okay. So I'm glad you brought this up.
It makes sense to us, whether it does, again, to the county. The other thing that's complicated, I mean, this is all, we have enough land based upon what our allocation is. They're given population projections and they allocate them to the cities and then to the county itself. So it's all about that allocation piece. But my understanding is we're gonna blow by that allocation majorly.
Yeah.
So, but that's the catch, is that they don't have to give us more.
Even if it's low by.
Well, because they say you're only gonna grow by a couple of thousand, I mean, it's
It
not
was like
very,
400.
huh?
It's like 400 and something.
400 and some.
20 years?
We blow by it when the apartment's open.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay,
so
Anyway.
it's just is what it is. It's not.
so they're gonna stick to the rule of allocation, or the limits of what they
Yeah,
determine.
It was the same for basically all the smaller cities like Kashmir and Chelan. We all got about 3.43%.
3% of what they're allocated for growth. So anyway,
Okay.
2 quick questions.
Yep.
When we do a thing like a map like this, I'd like to have a tour of the area rather than just look on a map.
Oh, yeah.
I see it clear. And the second question is, I think when I first got on the council, there was something going on with their urban growth stuff that I probably didn't understand at the time, and maybe don't today. But I heard somewhere that you can force annexation from the urban growth area. But I had heard the city had never done it, but they could do it. So I was just wondering, is it true?
I mean, you have to go through a process, I believe, like either an election method or a group. I mean, it can be if it's a city sponsored annexation, you would have to go through an election process. That's my understanding. I can read a little bit more in
Yeah,
RCW.
I had just heard that, so.
There's an election method, then there's the 60% petition method where people can petition to come in. But I think when the city's mandating it, that it goes through that election process.
Thank you.
Okay, this again was just an informational item because it already has gone to the county and we thought you should at least know what they're discussing and talking about, so.
Were these options sent to the county or just a request to
These options,
be open to some sort of swap?
We sent a memo to them for consideration and feedback.
yeah, so they got that open.
I'm kind of on the same page as the planning commission. I like some pieces of these options, but not all of them. I think in general, I would love to hear from the county as to whether or not they're open to it. And then it's an open negotiation, right? On where that swap could be, because I think that some of these parcels that you have put into the options for removal make a lot of sense. We don't have the infrastructure in some of these areas, and we really won't ever have the infrastructure, at least not within the next 20 years that they're planning for. So some of those parcels in the urban growth area don't make a lot of sense for us, particularly the ones that are designated forest land.
Yeah.
But there are some opportunities in the options for Leavenworth if they could be included in the UJ. So while I'm not excited about one option over another, I would love to hear more about the county and maybe just in general, just see if you can impress upon them that we would at least like them to come to the negotiation table for that opportunity. Because I agree, Carl, we're gonna go well past the allocation in this comp plan update.
All right, well, let's just hope that they're open to that negotiation, right? Maybe we got some brownie points tonight.
I was trying for that.
Well said. Let's go to council report, Sharon.
I'm working my way there. I want to ask Shalane.
Chantel. Whoa, you're gonna have a long way.
Yeah, on the solid waste, oh, she's talking to somebody.
He wants to ask you. I'm sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
You get this.
On these solid waste planning contributions, were you gonna talk about that? Am I supposed to mention it? I gave everybody a copy.
It was just letting them know that the rate's gonna be slightly increased.
Okay.
I'm gonna bring that new rate in the budget amendment in April,
Okay,
but just wanted everyone to hear it from you because you're on that council.
okay. All right, on February 26th, I went to the Icicle Work Group Strategy meeting at our fire district. Their purpose is to act as an advisory body to the Washington State Department of Ecology, Office of Columbia River Ecology, and Chelan County to develop and implement a comprehensive Icicle Creek water resource management strategy. Every group that is involved updated us on their process and progress. It was super interesting, because everybody that had an involvement in any part of this gave a short presentation of what they do and what that area was for. I really was stoked. I really liked that meeting. February 27th, I went to the Fest Hall to see what is it SOMAS? Is that how you pronounce it, or SOMAS? SOMAS group was presenting. I thought it was going to be just a meeting, but they had tables out and they had like the city of Leavenworth, all the shops and things on these tables. And so the person who maybe owned a shop, right here could go and look and see and say, well, there's a lump right there and that is in a bad place. And they had a chance to give some information about the frontage of their building and their cement. Where's my next one? Okay, February 28th, I went back to the fire hall for the wildfire season dates. And it was sponsored by the Jumpstick Wildfire Coalition, which I've been on since I got on council. John Callahan and Bob Keller, Mike Smith and Kelly O'Brien spoke and were the main presenters. Some lady was supposed to come from somewhere, but she didn't make it. She was going to be the lead person, but it was still a very interesting meeting. On March 3rd, I attended via Zoom the Solid Waste Council meeting. Christopher Perry is the new solid waste coordinator. They did a homeless camp cleanup in Malaga. In 3 days, they picked up 300,000 gallons of stuff. And the cost of that was $35,000. They collected 167,000 pounds at the moderate risk facility in Wenatchee where people can take their things. And most of that was in paint. Note, I believe the county is shutting down the yard. Oh, no, it was for me. Okay.
I heard that too.
If you go out East Leavenworth Road there and where East Leavenworth and Icicle meet, they have a place for yard waste and they closed it. Have they closed it?
That's what.
Yeah. And so, I volunteered on Wednesdays and Saturdays that I have free to go down to our waste management place and help check people's IDs, make sure that they live in the city of Leavenworth. Because last year it was really bad. And it ended up that a lot of people from the city of Leavenworth couldn't dump their waste because people from out in the urban growth area and county came in because you don't have to pay there, which probably is going to change. But they had to pay out in the other facility that no longer is open. On March 4th was the Royal Lady reveal at the NZN. I was asked back in October to be the Royal Lady companion, which was interesting. And it was really a smooth deal until the last day. To have to get her and her family into, or Sandy Houston and her family into the room at the NCN without being spotted.
Wow.
And so I remember when I was a Royal Lady and seeing Charlotte, who was my assistant, she just fell against the door once we got it closed because she was so relieved that we managed to get, because if you see any of my kids, you're gonna know if I'm the Royal Lady.
I knew you were because I was in there and you weren't, and that's how I knew. I knew, well, because you've always been there.
Oh, you mean when I was
When
royal?
you were Royal Lady, I knew it was you because you were in that. You were too obvious by your absence.
Well, we had to be out.
I know, that's what I mean.
So anyway, it was a fun night and let's see, March 6th, all the council, the mayor, Andrea, Kara, Chantel, I'm gonna miss somebody I know, Amy, and we had what, 10 people?
Everyone except for Selby, pretty much.
Everybody but self.
Yeah, at the chamber dinner back at the NZN. So that was fun too. And on March 9th, we all rolled our clocks for daylight savings time, which I would like to keep year round. That's a year round thing for me. And then March, reminder on March 18th, next Tuesday, is the United Methodist Church monthly free community dinner. And thanks for listening.
I moved to pass a resolution to do away with daylight saving.
Just here in Leavenworth.
Just here in Leavenworth.
Just in Leavenworth, right?
Not gonna.
We'll make a resolution, we'll put it on one.
Yeah.
I'll be at the ballot box. Well, and let me just tell you really quickly, on these little sheets that I gave you, solid waste planning contributions, this is what these cities are all part of the, using that solid waste facility. You can take your paint there and all kinds of other items.
Radiator fluid.
And so it shows you that, we will be paying we're City of Leavenworth. We'll be paying $4,676.25 for the year.
Will you ask him? I brought a 5-gallon bucket full to the top with radiator fluid a couple months ago, and he came back without my bucket. And I gave some money, and I'm like, Where's my bucket? I thought you were gonna dump it, get my.
Why don't you tell, why don't you ask
The whole
him?
deal.
Say, hey, I want my bucket back.
I was just glad you took it. I was like, here, I'm getting. My bucket.
Gotta ask questions, Travis.
Yeah.
Don't just walk
I'm
away.
glad there was an opportunity to do it besides dump it down the toilet.
Yeah,
It's a great
for sure.
facility. It's a clean, it's a great.
We don't want that in our waste.
Yeah, no.
I didn't. That's what I'm saying. I did.
Right?
Thought about it.
Like everyone else, attended the chamber banquet. It was nice to see everyone. It's good to see the community. And that's my report. Andy?
Basically the same report. I attended the chamber dinner and I love that we had such a great council and staff representation. I'm all for us being involved in these community events. And I'll keep pushing and encouraging for that. So yeah, that's all I've got. All my.
The next one's the
meetings
Mayfest Parade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
wasn't half of us raise our hands that got a ticket in Leavenworth?
Yeah. There were some city staff hands in the air, which was a surprise to me.
Yeah, staff.
The last thing I'll say is I'm gonna plug this again, because it's coming up next weekend. The Leavenworth Film Festival is Saturday, March 22nd.
Great, great. Yeah. So I attended the dinner, it was great. And I also went to the skim pond up at the ski hill, which is also very great. Pond skin. I haven't seen that many people up there. I mean, it wasn't what it was like in the 60s and 70s, but I've never seen 2 rows of cars on both sides of the road going east and south. And then it was just packed on the hill. So
wow,
quite an event. Nicely done. Nice day for it.
They did the pond skin back in the 70s and 60s?
No, they had real ski jumps. I packed.
Very, very different event. but-
Yeah, very different.
Zeke was there with the cowbell.
Gotcha.
All right.
My report is that, we missed you, Selby, at the chamber dinner last week. And I'm glad that you weren't in that gondola that fell at the yours.
Wow.
And that's the end of my report.
You were in New Orleans just for that incident and then
I
like
know.
skiing, like Ganoa's falling out of the sky.
Special year.
Yep, it was great. The Chamber of Commerce banquet was great. Listen, it was just Carl and I last year, and I'm glad you guys all came this year. And it was just Carl, I, and Troy in the Mayfest parade. Maybe you guys will join us this year. Okay. That's all I have for the report.
I went to the SOMAS presentation also, and I thought they did a really great job. Really good listeners. It was active listening. It was nice. They were on top of any suggestion you had, and it was really great. And I went as a council member and as a business owner in the downtown core, so that was nice to do both. And the chamber dinner was fun. Ditto to what you guys said. And I also was in a housing advisory committee meeting. And I just started up with them, but it's been really fun, and they are working on a presentation for all of us. So that's kind of was the bulk of the work, was getting ready for that.
Coming up next study session, actually, so. Stand by.
Stand by, all right. Just real quick. Yeah,
How do I let you know I'm gonna be absent next meeting?
that's how you.
I'll be
Yeah, on the record.
I will be in Vietnam, so I hope you guys excuse my absence.
Oh, let's see, if you zoomed in, you could be in the middle of the night. No.
I'm not gonna be here either. I'll be in Las Vegas.
Whoa.
That annual meeting conference.
Okay.
I have, so.
Dude,
I'll send you.
no more.
Is everybody else planning on being here?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it.
We could still lose one more and still have it.
We'll lose one, but we don't want it. Just a reminder to everybody to think about whether you want to attend the AWC annual conference. That's in June 24th to 27th. It is over one of our meetings, but Ann is going to sit in for me. I will be running again for the 3rd District AWC board member. I turned in my application today. And then the only other item of news I have is that about 3 o'clock this afternoon, the Senate bill that we would like passed was passed by the full Senate. So now it'll go to the House. Yes. And it could have a hearing. I will inform all of you. It could have a hearing as soon as Thursday or Friday of this week.
Wow.
It will, tomorrow is the last day they need to settle in one, whichever one they start with has to get passed completely out. And then Thursday, they start in with the committee meetings of dealing with the other chamber's business. So this one will then go to the House. We don't know what committee it will get assigned to. It could just go straight to finance or it could go to local government. But anyway, I'll let you know, and we got to go through the routine again. And if we make it, it's been reduced to a 4% tax on short-term rentals, and it would have to be passed by all of you if it passes the legislature. It's not a automatic anymore. It was changed to be a local option, so the jurisdictions would have to pass it. So
Does it have to be passed the
We got a
county and
notice
us?
today.
the county could do it, and then it would, if the county passed it, it would of course do all the ones in the county. If they passed it and we were the only city, it would exclude us. We would get what's in our city, but the county could pass it for the rest of the county. And if the other cities don't choose to pass it, they could collect from all of it, basically.
Is that the SDR notice we got in the mail today?
That's the one, yeah, that one that you got that says, don't tax our vacations.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was what it said.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, mailers were sent out. You might have gotten them.
get one. I didn't get one.
You didn't.
Well, I haven't checked my mail.
Many did. And they did a full wrap on the Seattle Times paper saying, don't mess with our charge us more for vacations. Yeah.
Are you gonna travel to Olympia
If I will
for the day?
try.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will try depending on the schedule and when this meeting will be, but yes, I would. This is worth showing up for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But anyway, that's the extent of my report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, so
Thanks, Mayor, Council. Brief report, because I was out last week on vacation, which is the only reason that I wasn't at the chamber banquet with the rep. Sounds like a great time. I'm really bummed I missed it. But so I've only been back a couple of days, and it's been, you know, a lot of catch up, a lot of emails, in meetings. And today I was in interviews every hour. And the same thing is going to happen tomorrow, interviews every hour, because we have a number of positions that I've already announced that we were recruiting for and we're interviewing now. So expect hopefully some announcements of new staff additions at your next meeting in 2 weeks.
That's a good problem, right?
Yeah, it's a great problem. And Andy, I spent some time with Tyler Mackey from Waste Management to get a deeper understanding of our waste management customers, the percentage that have recycling, the costs of bins, whether or not the smallest bin, the 35-gallon bin, is available in a Bearwise. It is available for Bearwise. So it was a great conversation. We got a deeper understanding. We've got more information I'll be getting from him, and he has volunteered to come and discuss our waste management, our current waste management contract. I think we're about halfway through a 10-year contract right now with you guys in the future as we talk about Bearwise, as we talk about the future of our recycling center. So we saw some pros and some cons to bundling and not bundling, and from cost perspectives. And I'm also in contact with Rob Batt from Winton about their desire to start offering curbside pickup of yard waste, as we discussed 2 weeks ago. So that is my update.
Chantel.
Council, I emailed you all on the 7th, which I think was last Friday. Our debt schedule, our Schedule 10, which is limitations on our general obligation debt, and our ER in our schedule. This was just a past practice that councils have always asked to get these updated documents each year. So once I get them done at the beginning of the year, I send them out to you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Those who were on the finance committee this last year saw these documents, so they may already be familiar with them. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be working on a few policy updates. In particular, the financial policy itself will be coming. At this point, my goal with this one, since there's normally not a big adjustment to this, is I will read through it. I'll look and see if there's anything that needs to be redlined. If I don't find anything at all, I'm still gonna bring it to you in a future, probably a study session to let you read through it too. And see if you guys have any suggested changes. It does seem like every year when I read it, I find at least 1 or 2 typos, so who knows what I'll find. In addition, cost allocation policy, this one's been on my back burner for a while. Time is just a hard one to find to get deep into this particular item. But it has been quite a few years since we've reviewed it and updated it. So for most of you, it's gonna be a brand new item that you've never seen. But cost allocation is specific to how we allocate our personnel across all the different funds that we have. So for some, it's very simplistic. For instance, water, sewer operators, 100% water, 100% sewer. But for people like us sitting right here at the dais, we touch every fund and everything in the city. So there's different methodologies for how we calculate that. Selby and I will get together before we bring it to you guys. We'll take a look at some other ideas that are out there, you know, different communities use different methodologies. So we'll definitely take a deep dive into that, and then we'll bring you what we think is our best recommendations. And the last one, which is gonna come to you first, is the budget amendment, and that will be coming at your first meeting in April.
Maybe.
I just have a couple quick things. So Community Development Department, with some changes in staff, just took over all the special use and its special event permits. So our department will be processing those. That adds about 60 some more permits to our department, which is exciting. And with that, it includes the farmers market, which we discussed tonight, and I want to thank them for coming and speaking this evening. I did want to just kind of talk a little bit about the process for code amendments. Typically, we ask for the public to submit those in October, November, by December 31st to consider for the docket for city sponsorship. So with that coming in and future discussions, that might be something we talk about, like with our joint meeting with the planning commission in June to add to the docket, because that's when we amend our docket. We do have a lot on our plate, department wise with the comp plan update. So something like that, I mean, it has to go through 60-day review, and there's public hearings. So just, you know, farmers market, that might not, if you decide to move that forward, it'll be fall by the time anything were to get approved. That's not gonna be something that happens fast. So just wanted to make you aware of the process, because it might not be something you're familiar with. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Andy.
And my update's really quick, but I'm just gonna share my screen quickly. So, just one project update for you. I know I mentioned the new commercial street lift station, part of that federal funding that we're utilizing. But we did have a couple opportunities. So this is zoomed in on the Post Hotel and Blackbird Lodge at the intersection of Commercial and Lee. And this red line is our existing sewer line, which actually runs underneath the Post Hotel. This is correct and accurate. So originally, the memo all along showed discharging the force within turning up there into this manhole. But after a site review with our consultant this past week, we have an opportunity to reroute and divert all the flow out from the Post Hotel. So we are moving forward with that. There's some cool opportunity to couple an improvement with another project that's already going on down there.
That must be a really deep line.
Yeah, I don't know the details
The
of that.
hotel is like multiple stories into the ground.
Yeah, it goes down quite a ways on that hill. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could understand what
It's really
in the world
shallow.
happened here, but more just see it as a liability to us to keep.
Yeah.
It's about 65% of the sewer, of the city's sewer that comes through this line.
I'm surprised we didn't ask them to realign it before construction.
65% of the, say that again?
About 65% of the city's sewer flows through this main.
That's south interceptor that we've done.
Yeah,
So what are you gonna do with it?
so it's like the fourth, it's gonna come up commercial and then.
Oh, okay, I see, I see.
With avoided the post on top.
That's it?
That's it.
All right.
Good luck.
Yeah, right.
How much money for that project?
We have roughly $2.5 million.
Thanks.
I would
I move to adjourn.
second.
Second.
All those in favor?
I
Hey, we're all going home. Thank you all.
Thanks for staying.
Yeah, thanks for staying.
Thanks for staying.
Nine.
Well, so